Chapter 2002. But, since they are heartless, don't blame us for being heartless. No one was the first to say it. Although everyone was thinking of this sentence, but, to really say it out loud required courage. Other than courage, it also required the recognition that there was no turning back. Over there were still clans, relatives, parents, brothers. Once they really did that, they would be completely isolating themselves from the past. Perhaps they would not have the chance to touch it for a very, very long time, or even in this lifetime. This was undoubtedly a heavy spiritual burden that no one was willing to bear. It had nothing to do with whether they could bear it, it was just that they were not willing to bear it. However, if he didn't resist, it would be equivalent to giving away his life for nothing, giving it away to someone else. And, since they were already here, then unless they never showed their faces, as long as they showed their faces, there was a possibility of meeting them. Once they met, there was only death. The two brothers who died outside were already the best proof. Up till now, there were only 30 people left. Everyone had an obscure expression and did not say a word. Elder Bai, is there any contact between the sect and the Moyun Tian soldiers? Is it possible? Chu Yang asked implicitly. Logically speaking, it should not be. Bai Yu Chen's guess coincided with Chu Yang's. Chu Yang nodded slowly. Now is the time for them to redeem themselves. If they can't capture or kill us with their own hands, they will also be in trouble. Bai Yu Chen took a deep breath and said, therefore, under such circumstances, they will be able to redeem themselves. There is basically no possibility that they will inform the soldiers. Because that means they have lost the chance to redeem themselves. Everyone nodded. But, they are really too familiar to us. Che Shuchu's words made Chu Yang sigh. And, everyone who is related to us is under their control. This is where the fundamental problem lies. Che Shuchu sighed deeply. We are afraid of breaking the vases. Chu Yang's expression was calm. He said, speaking of this, it is not a problem for me. Tell me their appearance and strength. Let me do this. You said that you are all too familiar with them, but they are not strangers to you either, right? As long as you don't do it yourself, they have no reason to harm your family. Moreover, they don't have any evidence. Chu Yang said in a heavy voice, since that's the case, I'll deal with them first. Blindly waiting is just like sitting and waiting for death. There was no way out. If they were destined to kill, then let me do it myself. Bai Yu Chen looked haggard. She opened her mouth to say something, but in the end, she closed her mouth. According to Chu Yang, it seemed to make sense, but in reality, it was just deceiving oneself. By pointing out the identities and origins of those people, I'm basically guiding Chu Yang to send them to hell. What's the difference between this and doing it myself? However, as Bai Yu Chen's mind raced, a few other thoughts surged. It was true that she had many good brothers in the sect, and she also had a few brothers whom she loved dearly. However, since these people had come here, it meant that they had already made it clear that they were her enemies. Among the two people who had been killed, one of them was an old friend of his. The people he had mentioned were undoubtedly acquaintances as well. If they weren't acquaintances, other than the people in his heart, no one else would have been able to recognize him. Only those who were the most familiar with them could possibly see through their true identity. Then, if they met her, what would they do? Would they let her off? Thinking of this, Bai Yu Chen's entire body turned cold. The answer was obvious. Absolutely not. Both sides had clear standpoints. What was she hesitating for? It was already extremely rare that Chu Yang was willing to do it for her. She really shouldn't be hesitating here. The biggest benefit of me doing it is that your family in Moyun Sky will not be implicated. Because, from the start till the end, all of you did not show up. Chu Yang said lightly. Bai Yu Chen felt ashamed. Everyone also lowered their heads. Yes, Chu Yang didn't do this to deceive himself. Instead, he was leaving a way out for himself. Elder Bai, how's your arm? Chu Yang asked with concern. The time is not ripe yet. Bai Yu Chen smiled bitterly. Chu Yang grunted and did not say anything. An injury like a broken arm was not an injury that could not be healed for a high-level martial artist. According to Bai Yu Chen's cultivation, She could have regrown her broken arm long ago. But because of the previous fierce battles, her vitality was greatly damaged, and the damage to her body was even more severe. It was inevitable that her vitality would be insufficient in a short period of time, and it would take time to regrow it. This kind of thing could only be done when one's vitality was abundant. But now, Chu Yang only had 2 heavy pills left, and he still had to prepare for emergencies. The spring of life was all gone, and the rest of the elixirs were basically all in the tribulation space. There was nothing he could do about it, and he could do nothing about it. After saying a few words, Chu Yang took the recorded information and slowly walked out. At the very least, the new defectors could not show their faces in the short term. Once they were recognized, the risk would be too great. Not only would their lives be in danger, as long as one of them did not keep his mouth shut and was interrogated, then they would all be wiped out. Chu Yang did not dare to take the risk of causing such serious consequences. As for now, at least the people of the 3 big sects had confirmed that these people were hiding in Lone Bamboo City. So, the people of the 3 big sects were bound to gather in Lone Bamboo City. There were at least a few thousand experts in this group of people. How could he fight against them? Could he only rely on himself? Even if his cultivation had improved greatly, and he was confident that he was the number 1 person in the celestial being level, he was still alone and could not win against so many. There was no chance of winning if he attacked head-on. Chu Yang frowned and thought of a countermeasure. He walked into his room and thought carefully with a heavy face. After a long time, he still could not come up with a good countermeasure. Whenever he thought of the sad faces of Bai Yuchen and Che Shuchu and the other 30 people, that kind of indescribable heartache, Chu Yang's heart was very heavy and also very angry. The people who were searching for them. It could be said that Bai Yuchen and the others thought that they were the closest to him. This kind of naked betrayal, this kind of undisguised blow, people who had not experienced it would really find it hard to understand. Those people might have their own high-sounding reasons, for the sake of the sect, for the continuation of the bloodline. For the sake of many, many principles, all in all, saying it out loud was just an honorable. But, it was undeniable that they were coerced to kill their own brothers. Even, to kill their own masters, their own disciples, and the cause was just a mistake. It was even a mistake that was not made by their own people. Just for the sake of revenge for a scum, Chu Yang pondered for a long time and finally made up his mind. Since it was destined to be unavoidable, it would not be him and the others who would be killed. It would be the enemies who would be slaughtered. Then, he would be the one to wield this butcher's knife. That night, Chu Yang was dressed in black and masked. Behind the mask was a completely changed appearance. Like a ray of light, he quietly flashed out of the window. Galloping in the night wind, the cold wind blew in his face. Chu Yang felt a long-lost throbbing. It seemed that it had really been a long, long time since he had assassinated someone like this. In an inn that was not very large. A few people from Iron Sword Sect, one of the 3 super sects of Ink Cloud Sky, were discussing in a room. For the time being, we have not found the whereabouts of Bai Ni. We also have not found any traces of the others. A person said softly. Bai Yuchen, the former number 3 figure of Iron Sword Sect, the elder of these people, had actually become Bai Ni in their mouths. And they said it so matter-of-factly. So, only the Frost Sect has found the 2 traitors of their sect. We in Ghost Realm did not find anything. Yes, Ghost Realm's people also did not find anything. This is simply nonsense. There are no Ghost Realm's people here. What can they find? Wu Sheng. That's true. But the current plan is to find the whereabouts of Bai Ni and the others as soon as possible and end this matter quickly. Use their heads to report. Only in this way can we appease Sky Emperor's anger and protect our Iron Sword Sect. Otherwise, once Sky Emperor is furious, it will not be so easy to bear. Our Iron Sword Sect is a super sect in the eyes of others, but in Sky Emperor's eyes, we are not as strong as an ant. How would we not know? But currently Bai Ni and the others are hiding very well. What can we do? If we really cannot find them, we must definitely not find them. We must find them. The situation now is very obvious. Either they die or we die. From tonight onwards, instruct everyone to secretly check every room, focus on the appearance of the people inside, confirm and check one by one. Yes, I've checked and made a mark. Sift through the entire city. Don't miss a single person. If we do this, will we offend people we do not need to offend? We can't care. If we can't catch them, the entire sect will be gone. Are you still afraid of offending people you do not need to offend? Yes, yes, yes. I know my mistake. Before first elder and second elder arrive, you must check clearly. Yes. At this moment, there seemed to be some kind of muffled voice outside the door. Although the voice was very low, the group of people here were all experts, and they were instantly alert. These people were a small team of Ironsword sect, or rather, the vanguard. It was also the second day of their arrival in Lone Bamboo City. Although they were not the main force, the overall strength of this small team of more than 30 people was not bad. The cultivation of the weakest was at the beginner level of Saint. Naturally, their alertness was very high. What's going on over there? The leader asked in a low voice. There were only 7 or 8 people in the room, and they were all high-ranking people with a certain amount of power. Outside, there should be more than 20 people distributed in various rooms, or in charge of security patrol. This question was naturally directed to the people outside. However, he did not receive an answer from anyone. The night wind whistled, and although everyone was in the room, they could not help but feel their hair standing on end. Chapter 2003. Furthermore, it was highly possible that the people outside had already been killed by the enemy. Everyone held their weapons in their hands at the same time, and they were on high alert. PACOM, at this moment, under the gaze of the 8 people, the wooden stick behind the door softened like noodles and shattered into pieces. It turned into sawdust and dissipated on the ground. Then, the 2 doors opened with a hooah sound, and the night wind blew in just like that. However, there was no one outside the door. Everyone's eyes were filled with fear and anger. Looking out from the open door, they saw 22 corpses neatly placed in the courtyard. All of them were lying on the ground, not moving at all. The night wind blew, and the clothes of these people fluttered weakly and miserably, as if it was announcing their deaths. This hidden enemy had obviously killed everyone one by one, and even placed the corpses neatly outside the door. Until now, no one had discovered it. What did this mean? May I ask, who are you? Have you arrived in the dark night? The leader gathered his courage and asked loudly. In the dark night, a cold laugh sounded. Who are you? What is your status in the Ironsword sect? Following the voice, everyone's eyes flashed. A person suddenly appeared in the courtyard, standing in front of the corpses. He was dressed in black, and his face was covered with a black cloth. He almost blended into the night. May I know who you are? The leader asked cautiously. That person was silent for a moment, and said, the road to the Yellow Springs is long, and you can look forward to it. Why do you need to know who I am? Everyone swiftly thought about those who accompanied the Grand Emperor to the Eastern Royal Immortal Realms, but none of them seemed to be the culprit. Also, for those unfamiliar faces, none of them seemed to have the capability to silently kill so many people. They could not help but be astonished. Who is this person? In the dark night, a sword light suddenly flashed, and that person's body seemed to sway. In the room, the person closest to the door spurted out blood from his throat. His hands clutched his throat tightly, and his eyes bulged out in anger. His body spasmed, and he fell to the ground, and no longer moved. Everyone looked at each other in shock. There were so many people gathered in one place, but not a single one of them saw how the person on the other side drew his sword. Yet, someone on their side had already been killed. I've never been a patient person. The most annoying thing is when I ask a question but no one answers. The black-clothed man's hands were empty. No one could see where his sword was. He said indifferently, now, please answer my question. What is your name? What was the status of a sect? These are useful to me. Therefore, you still have a chance to live. The 7 of them suddenly felt a wave of shame and anger rush up to their heads. They were instantly enraged. What are you? What right do you have to interrogate us like we're criminals? Could it be that you really think you're going to beat us? Kill him. A cold light shot out from the leader's eyes. The 7 of them roared as they raised their weapons and attacked at the same time. "You're courting death." That person chuckled. His black figure swayed as he walked forward step by step, facing the saber light and sword shadows. It was as if he was taking a leisurely stroll in the park, completely not putting him in his eyes. Then, a beautiful sword light suddenly lit up in the dark night. It was like a beautiful meteor, sharp as if it was going to tear the world apart. The next moment, that black-clothed man had already arrived in front of the leader. He held a shining sword in his hand and pointed it at the leader's throat. "Tell me your name, your position." Behind the black-clothed man, everyone's body was trembling and motionless. Then, one by one, they fell down. Blood quickly dyed the ground red. The late autumn wind blew. The temperature of the flowing blood quickly dropped and cooled on the ground. The leader looked at the black-clothed man with eyes that were about to split open. Suddenly, he laughed bitterly and fiercely moved forward. Although the black-clothed man sensed it, he had no intention of retracting his hand. He looked at the leader's throat with unusual coldness. The tip of the sword immediately pierced deeply into his throat and blood gushed out. The leader's body spasmed as he stared at him. There was a trace of ridicule in his eyes. "Do you want to know? I won't tell you. I won't tell you even if I die." Not bad. I didn't expect there to be so many heroes in the super sect. Today is an eye-opener. The black-clothed man looked coldly at the tip of the sword that had just been pulled out. "This way, I can at least retain some respect for you." The black-clothed man's figure rushed to the sky. In a flash, he was already gone. This night was destined to be a night of killing, a night of bleeding. In just one night, nearly 1,000 Jianghu people were killed, either in the inn, or in the rented houses, or on the road, or in the brothel. Everyone's body was not cleaned up. They just died there. Early the next morning, the entire Lone Bamboo City was suddenly in an uproar. Suddenly, more than 1,000 Jianghu people were killed. This kind of explosive news was absolutely shocking. Not to mention, among the dead people, there was a top master of the celestial being level. The 4th elder of the ghost realm had died here in such a baffling manner. Everyone who knew the identity of the dead people was not only shocked, but also terrified. What on earth happened that caused so many people to die at the same time? Moreover, looking at the symptoms of death, it seemed that it was done by the same person. What kind of crazy butcher was this to be able to kill so many experts in one night? For a moment, everyone was in danger, afraid that the nameless butcher would come for them. At this moment, outside the south gate, a group of people came from afar. A figure came out of the city like a meteor and greeted them, saying a few words. The group of people abruptly stopped in their tracks. Their faces instantly turned ugly. "We have less than 400 people in Lone Bamboo City, and more than 350 of them died. The rest is less than 10% of the total." The leading old man with an aquiline nose frowned and asked. "Yes." The messenger's face was pale. "The reason why we were able to survive was because we lived in a relatively secluded place. Furthermore, we did not have time to contact anyone else. That was why we were able to survive. If we had contacted anyone, I'm afraid we would have. The dead were all killed by sword wounds." "Yes." The aquiline nose old man thought for a moment. "Enter the city immediately. I want to see everyone's fatal wounds." At this moment, a ray of light suddenly appeared, as if it was flying from the sky. Under the bright sun, it whistled, and in an instant, it became a storm that could sweep the sky and the earth. "There's no need to enter the city to see. You can also see it from here. You can see it very clearly. The price is the lives of those who stay here," a cold voice said. Then, the sword light whistled by. The aquiline nose old man was shocked by the sudden change, but he quickly regained his composure and shouted, "How dare you!" He quickly drew his sword to meet the attack. But the attacker had already rushed into the crowded group from the side. The magnificent sword light suddenly spread out. In an instant, the whole world was filled with the magnificent sword energy, and the air seemed to be cut into pieces. Cries of alarm and screams could be heard incessantly. "Ha ha ha ha, open your eyes and watch carefully. We'll have fun when you enter the city." The aquiline-nosed old man had just risen into the air on his sword. The figure had already passed through the crowd like a gust of wind, and turned into a ray of light under the sun. It disappeared into the horizon, and there was no trace of it. It came suddenly, and left carelessly. Only the extremely arrogant, ear-piercing laughter was still echoing in the morning wind, lingering in the air. The aquiline-nosed old man was so angry that his whole body was trembling. He roared, "Bastard!" A moment ago, the group was very orderly, but now, with a chisel action, a passage of 3 feet wide and hundreds of feet long was opened. In this passage, there were broken limbs and bodies everywhere, dripping with blood. There were also a few heads on the ground. In the pool of blood, they continued to roll slowly. The entire official road was now stained with blood, soaked in it. It was only a short moment from start to finish. When they thought that it was the safest, when they were the most unguarded, when all of their people were gathered, they were brutally and unreasonably chiseled by the other party. The morning sun in the sky was witnessing this cruel and bloody process. The executioner who had been killing for an entire night actually did it in broad daylight. He did not stop his killing footsteps. In just a short moment, not even 5 breaths of time had passed. More than 150 people had already died under that one sword strike. What a ruthless person. What a killer move. That poisonous sword. The aquiline-nosed old man could not help but tremble all over. He was so angry that he was about to go crazy, but he was also so scared that his back was cold. This sword was really like a ghost and a demon. It was completely the power of a sword, or rather, the power of a move. It pierced through the whole group on his side, and even had the strength to fly away. What kind of sword was this? What kind of move was this? And, who was that person? This sword strike seemed to have deliberately avoided him, who was the strongest, and charged towards the group while avoiding the strong and striking the weak. However, the aquiline-nosed old man asked himself, what would the result be if I was caught off guard and encountered this sword? Thinking of this, he could not help but shudder. Perhaps, with his cultivation at the peak of the celestial being level, he could avoid death, but serious injury or even disability was absolutely unavoidable. His life might even be in danger. What about the other party? The other party had taken the initiative and had the advantage of a sneak attack. His moves were superb, and his cultivation had also reached the celestial being realm. Under such favorable conditions, as long as he didn't continue to fight, even if he couldn't escape unscathed, he would at most suffer some light injuries. The other party would at most be slightly injured, but he would at least be seriously injured, or even killed. Thinking about it, he was inexplicably scared. Chapter 2004. Bu Liuqing sneered and said sarcastically, "People like you will never understand such feelings." The Dharma Supreme laughed involuntarily, his eyes filled with reminiscence. He shook his head and sighed. "If I wasn't a sexual lover, I wouldn't have become one of the tribulations." "Ha ha," he laughed self-deprecatingly and said, "but that was a long time ago. I am no longer one now." He murmured softly again. Bu Juihui. Lian. He kept murmuring this name. The pain between his brows appeared again and again, as if he was enjoying this pain. Finally, he heaved a long sigh. "I've finally tasted this feeling again." He sighed sorrowfully. "Back then, I also had this unforgettable experience." Then, he stopped murmuring and shook his head, as if to shake off this inexplicable emotion. He laughed involuntarily and said, "I see. I see." I searched through his memories and kept feeling that something was missing, but I couldn't find a clue. There were only 3 words that occupied a lot of his memories, and that was Bu Juihui. I searched through all the experts in the continent and still couldn't find out who this Bu Juihui was. "I didn't expect that you would jump out today. Bu Juihui, ha ha ha. What a good name. You finally admitted it." Bu Liuqing looked up to the sky and howled. 2 streams of hot tears rolled down his usually cold and emotionless eyes. He just stood there and howled towards the sky. His voice was filled with boundless desolation, sorrow, and extreme sorrow that couldn't be concealed in the slightest. Anyone who heard it couldn't help but want to cry. At this moment, feeling Bu Liuqing's desolate state of mind, Chu Yang bit his lips tightly. Wu Qianqian also burst into tears. The Dharma Supreme smiled and said with his hands behind his back, "That's right. So what if you admit it? Bu Liuqing, what can you do?" "I don't want to do anything. I just want to seek justice for my brother." Bu Liuqing looked up to the sky and let the tears roll down his face, but he didn't wipe them away. "Let the heavens bear witness. Let the earth bear witness. Bear witness to my brother's injustice. Bear witness to my revenge for him. Ha ha ha. Revenge." The Dharma Supreme laughed contemptuously, as if he had heard the biggest joke in the world. Bu Liuqing let out a low sigh. "Yes, revenge." The atmosphere suddenly froze. Both of them were about to make a move. The Dharma Supreme sighed. "Bu Liuqing, brother Bu, since you have such a friendship with Dongfang Badao, then it's not strange for you to see through me. But why are you so sure that I'm the robber? I've never suspected that you were a kidnapper. It's just that, 100 years ago, Wu Jueqing suddenly appeared. After Wu Jueqing appeared, the first thing is to charge into Law Enforcement City and kill the Dharma Supreme." Bu Liuqing said, "I want to kill you. But you didn't die in the end. This shouldn't have happened." Since Wu Jueqing has decided to make a move, why should he give up now? With his hatred for the Tribulation Swordmaster, how could he let go of the Dharma Supreme, who was the Tribulation Swordmaster's greatest trump card? And he was clearly no match for Wu Jueqing. But you survived. I've been puzzled for 100 years. Until recently, when Feng and you betrayed the Law Enforcement City, and you made it clear that you wanted to deal with the Calamity Swordmaster, I had a guess. Bu Liuqing's eyes were burning. So Wu Jueqing didn't kill you. It's not that you changed your mind, but because you're on the same path as him. But even if you're on the same path, Wu Jueqing might still kill you. The poison doctor from back then would only show mercy to those who he felt were in the same situation as him, to take the next step of cooperation. So you have nothing to fear now, because you have Wu Jueqing behind you. Bu Liuqing's voice became heavier and heavier. So you must be a kidnapper. But I don't know, are you from 20,000 years ago? Or the tribulation from 30,000 years ago? The Dharma Supreme listened with a smile. With a slight smile, he said, "But why don't you guess that I'm from 40,000 years ago? If you're from 40,000 years ago, Wu Jueqing won't even fight with you. If you're from 50,000 years ago, Wu Jueqing won't be your match. So you only have 20,000 or 30,000 years to choose." Bu Liuqing asked softly, "Who exactly are you?" The Dharma Supreme smiled. "It's not important who I am. What's important is today's battle. Bu Liuqing, if you're done, you can make your move. The winter night is cold and chilly. In this wilderness, it doesn't taste good." Bu Liuqing's pupils contracted. He said word by word, "I just want to ask you one last question." The Dharma Supreme frowned. "I also want to ask you something. 13,000 years ago, you already knew that I was a fake. Then what have you been doing for the past 13,000 years?" He smiled mockingly. "Why didn't you come to avenge your good brother?" Bu Liuqing said solemnly, "Then do you know why I fought with Ning Tianya for more than 10,000 years? Do you think people like us really care about being number one in the world? It was Ning Tianya who stopped you." The Dharma Supreme laughed. "Looks like the next time I see Ning Tianya, I must have a good drink with him." Bu Liuqing said indifferently, "Ning Tianya always believed that everything that happens has its own reason. Since the Dharma Supreme has been switched, then the Tribulation Sword Master should be the one to deal with it. But I don't agree. And you have always lived in seclusion, so I didn't have much of a chance. Now, I came to the medicine banquet this time because although you never showed up in the previous medicine banquets, I knew that you would definitely come this time because Moonbreeze betrayed you. Therefore, they will definitely destroy the medicine banquet. Other than you, no one can stop the two of them, therefore, you will definitely come, and Ning Tianya has already been sent out by me, therefore, my real purpose for coming this time is to fight it out with you." Bu Liuqing said solemnly, "To avenge my brother. Although 13,000 years have passed, my brother still needs an explanation. As long as my brother needs an explanation, not to mention 13,000 years, even if it is 100,000 years, I will give it to him. He said word by word. An explanation. After coming here, I found out that you have modified Badao's body into innate spirit meridians. Hey, your strength is improving by leaps and bounds at any time. I don't deny that I am also worried that if I let you go on like this, I won't be able to kill you. Bu Liuqing spoke frankly about his misgivings. The Dharma Supreme laughed involuntarily. So what you mean is, you can kill me now? Bu Liuqing said coldly, I can't kill you, but I can. Words have no proof, the outcome will be decided with my sword. The Dharma Supreme was silent for a moment before he said, You wanted to ask me the last question just now, so ask it quickly. After you are done, I will send you to reunite with your brother. I want to ask you, is Dongfang Badao still alive now? Bu Liuqing took a deep breath and asked solemnly, when the spirit enters the body, it can be suppressed, eliminated, or obliterated. I want to ask, which one did you use? The Dharma Supreme smiled strangely. What do you think? Tell me, do you think I would still have such an obsession? The light in Bu Liuqing's eyes disappeared. He closed his eyes and his chest rose and fell. He took a deep breath and exhaled. When he opened his eyes, the look in his eyes became more and more fierce. He nodded heavily, with an unforgettable hatred, and said word by word, Good. Very good. Both of them stopped talking. However, a terrifying aura began to gather and surge in the mountains and valleys. The next moment, Bu Liuqing shouted, Badao. Only the east. Then, with a strike of the sword, a thunderclap suddenly sounded in the air. An incomparably domineering aura was released with this strike of the sword. All the trees in the mountain forest leaned back neatly at this moment. This strike was brilliant and domineering. Bu Liuqing stood in the air, as if he was going to accept the worship of the whole world. He was fierce and arrogant. Dharma Supreme, this strike shall be called Dongfang Badao. Bu Liuqing shouted. The sword light was like a dragon, falling from the sky. I am avenging my brother. My first strike shall be my brother's name. The sword light fell. Since you want to be domineering, then I shall be domineering with you. The Dharma Supreme smiled and took a step forward. This step, as if the ground had shrunk, he was in front of Bu Liuqing's sword light and punched out. A simple punch. It did not even have any momentum. It hit the sword light fiercely. A domineering strike, a domineering punch. The sword light and the punch hit each other fiercely. The sword light seemed to have solidified and stopped in the air. The Dharma Supreme's fist also seemed to have frozen in the air, just above the sword light. His black sleeves slid down lightly, revealing his fair wrist. Bu Liuqing was in the air, holding his sword with one hand. His hair was facing the sky, dancing in the wind. The Dharma Supreme stood on the ground and punched out. He maintained this posture, his long hair fluttering violently behind him. This strange posture only lasted for half a breath's time. Both of them grunted at the same time and Bu Liuqing's body flew backward violently. The long sword in his hand turned into a shooting star and disappeared without a trace in an instant. The Dharma Supreme arched his body and retreated backward as fast as lightning. However, one could clearly see that as the Dharma Supreme retreated, his feet first sank into the ground, then his calves, then his thighs, waist, upper body, and the rest of his body. He retreated in this manner, but the ground went from shallow to deep, suddenly plowing a deep gully with his body. By the time he retreated halfway, this gully had already become a canyon. The stone walls on both sides were like mud, rolling out in opposite directions. This retreat was a full 270 feet. It was as if a person had used his own body to carve out a huge canyon that was a few hundred feet long and hundreds of feet deep. This exchange was also a head-on clash where both of them used their full strength to test each other's strength. It turned out to be a draw, with no one gaining the upper hand. When the Dharma Supreme stood still, he had already become a small black dot. Zi Sheqing deliberately tore the space apart to let Chu Yang and Wu Qianqian see the Dharma Supreme's appearance. His face was slightly distorted, as he raised his hand and looked deeply at his fist. On the edge of his fist, there was a clear white mark. Chapter 2005. Part 7 Chapter 310 Secrets of Tribulation 4th Update. The Dharma Supreme smiled faintly and spoke lightly, with a sense of nostalgia and an inexplicable melancholy. And L. and G. Webb. Hihi, back then, from the very beginning, Boss had given us countless elixirs and elixirs. Almost every few days, everyone's cultivation would soar by leaps and bounds. Big Brother said that we would rule the heavens together. We would complete our ultimate dream together. Zi Xieching heard this and couldn't help but sigh. She scolded, "This is simply nonsense. Using elixirs and elixirs, isn't this purely harming people?" Chu Yang agreed. Which one of the tribulations wasn't a peerless genius? Using elixirs and elixirs was directly blocking the path of these people to collapse the heavens and break the void. However, if they didn't consider their ultimate future from the start and only wanted to use them to mend the heavens, then, this could be considered a way. It was just that it was really too cold and heartless. The Dharma Supreme continued to speak. We brothers gave up everything for each other, including our lives. We could let the other party take it easily. Big Brother didn't say anything to us. At that time, we felt that even the gods couldn't make us brothers bow down and retreat. We advanced step by step, killing revered martial artists, defeating martial kings, killing martial emperors, killing martial saints and fighting supreme martial artist. Along the way, we rose to fame. When we reached the upper three heavens, we advanced step by step, fighting one clan after another, from the weak to the strong. I can't even remember how many times we went through life and death, how many times we circled the gates of hell. Ha ha. Finally, all 10 of us reached the level of supreme martial artist. The big clans were unreasonable and were finally eliminated by us one by one. Ha ha. It was much easier than the Tribulation's Swordmaster now. In the entire heavens, there weren't many supreme martial artists and above. As for supreme martial artists, there wasn't even one. Ha ha. The law enforcement officers and the Dharma Supreme led the crowd to help. At that time, we were very tired every day, but we were very happy every day. We gathered together every day, discussing excitedly and paying attention to each other's changes. When our brothers were injured, we cursed and scolded them together. When our brothers won, we celebrated together. We were iron-blooded and all-powerful, coming and going as we pleased, killing as we please. That period of time was truly an extraordinary period of time. If time stopped at that moment, even if it was forever in that chaotic battlefield, it would still be the greatest happiness. But at that time, although we were happy, we were also very tired. Everyone wanted to sweep through the heavenly layer as soon as possible and complete their final leduo. The 10 brothers wanted to stand at the peak of the world together. Then, everyone could live a peaceful and happy life. Thus, in a spurt of energy, we finally annihilated the great clans. After that, the 10 brothers formed their own clans and recruited celestial layer experts. The entire celestial layer was finally peaceful. Everyone thinks that they can enjoy themselves. We have the final say in this world. 2 years later, Boss called us for a drink. When Boss called us for a drink, how could we not go? Of course, the brothers had to go. So, everyone went there excitedly. The Dharma Supreme said indifferently, as if he was telling someone else's story. His voice was very calm. However, this calmness contained an indescribable feeling. At this point, although he did not deliberately emphasize his tone, Chu Yang also felt as if a chilly wind was blowing at the back of his head. It was chilly. Chu Yang thought to himself, looks like something must have happened during this drinking session. That day, after we went, Boss said that our cultivation is too high. Damn it, we can't even get drunk now. All of us would subconsciously circulate our energy and the effects of the alcohol would be gone. How boring. So we might as well seal our cultivation and drink together. How boring would it be if we didn't get drunk? Thus, everyone cheered. The heavenly layer is all ours. What danger can there be? It's just sealing our cultivation. We have done this many times before. Drinking like this is more enjoyable. Ha ha. The Dharma Supreme suddenly laughed self-deprecatingly. That drinking session went on for 3 days and 3 nights. Everyone was drunk. When I woke up, I realized that I couldn't move. My cultivation as a 7th grade supreme martial artist couldn't be used at all. It was as if I was dead. I tried hard to turn my head and realized that the brothers were all lying down, but their eyes were all dazed. No one knew what had happened. At this time, Boss walked in and said with a smile, "Brothers, you had a good time drinking this session, right?" Everyone was relieved at once. Boss came and saw that everything was fine. He even joked with us. Thus, everyone laughed. Everyone laughed. I was laughing too. Ha ha, ha ha. When Boss said that, I remember that Boss even said, "Boss, we had a good time drinking this session. Let's drink like this again next time." But, why can't I stand up? Could I have been drugged? Ha ha. I was joking. Everyone knew that. But everyone still reprimanded me in unison, thinking that he had gone overboard. Yes, it is all thanks to Boss that we are where we are today. How can we suspect Boss? Even if it was a joke, it should not have happened. Even if he had such thoughts, he should be hacked into pieces. It shouldn't be. Hee hee, hee hee. The Dharma Supreme laughed coldly. When the Dharma Supreme said the sentence should not have happened, even with Bu Liuqing's cultivation and willpower, he couldn't help but shudder. There was a strong sense of grief, self-mockery, anger, disbelief, the humiliation of being deceived, and a strong sense of unwillingness. All these emotions were intertwined together. Anyone who heard this sentence would feel their hair stand on end. Zi Xieching called out to Chu Yang twice, but Chu Yang didn't respond at all. Chu Yang's ears perked up as he listened to the Dharma Supreme's words. He was completely focused and didn't get distracted at all. He didn't hear Zi Xieching's call at all. His entire mind was already immersed in this story. This was the first time Chu Yang heard the story of the Tribulation's Swordmaster and his brothers. Hearing the Dharma Supreme's words, imagining the unreserved trust between brothers, absolute loyalty, respect and gratitude to Boss, Chu Yang was touched and suddenly thought of his brothers. My brothers are not inferior to you in any way. My brothers also treat me like this. But I am different from you. I won't treat my brothers like that. At that time, Boss said that I was right. You can't move now because I had drugged you. I had drugged you with soul-poisoning powder. The Dharma Supreme laughed lightly and shook his head. Silence fell. Sigh. Soul-poisoning powder. Even though Bu Liuqing and the Dharma Supreme were archenemies, he couldn't help but sigh and didn't know what to say. Soul-poisoning powder was a type of drug that was specially used against supreme martial artists. It was useless against ordinary people. When a person reached supreme martial artist level and above, a second primordial spirit would be formed. All the inner energy and cultivation would be used to support the growth of this second primordial spirit. Once the second primordial spirit grew, it would be the time to collapse the sky and shatter the void. The soul-poisoning powder was used to immobilize the second primordial spirit. It was an extremely vicious drug. As long as the second primordial spirit was immobilized, a supreme martial artist would be at the mercy of anyone. Even a 3-year-old child could kill him as long as he had a knife in his hand. Bu Liuqing didn't expect that the Tribulation's Swordmaster would actually use soul-poisoning powder on his brothers. Sigh. The Dharma Supreme also let out a long sigh and said bitterly, "Brother Bu, you and I may still be mortal enemies tomorrow, but what I said today is all true. The situation back then is still vivid in my mind. Every word that was said has been repeated hundreds of thousands of times in my ears. Everyone's tone, everyone's expression, even if I were to live for another 1,000,000 years, I will definitely not forget it." He looked at the starry sky and said, "It is lonely at the top." This sentence really makes sense. All these years, I wanted to find someone to talk to, but I couldn't find anyone. Bu Liuqing nodded deeply and said, "I believe you." The Dharma Supreme chuckled and continued, "Back then, when Big Brother said that, all of us were stunned. Our first reaction was that Boss was joking. Second brother said, 'Boss, what are you playing at? Quickly get us to stand up, we will give you a good beating.' Boss shook his head and said, 'I have a few words, a few things that I want to talk to you guys about today. I had no choice but to do this. I wanted to let you guys listen to me quietly.' Therefore, all of us said, What, can't you just sit up and touch the bottom of the wine cup? You even had to restrain us, boss, you are too much. But until then, we all knew that there was absolutely nothing wrong. Boss would never harm us. Even Diwu Cho-chang, who was the most resourceful among us, said, I believe that what boss is going to say will make us all excited. The Dharma Supreme chuckled. Diwu Cho-chang. When Bu Liuqing heard this name, he was finally shocked and said, You are one of the tribulations 30,000 years ago. The Dharma Supreme ignored him and continued, Boss said, Everyone knows that I am the tribulation's sword master and that my mission is to reform the heavens. However, there is one thing that you all don't know. The tribulation's sword master has another mission, which is to use the power of millions of dead souls to mend the heavens for 10,000 years, to ensure that the heavens will not collapse in 10,000 years. At that time, everyone was very excited and agitated, saying that this is a good thing. The merit is in the present and the benefits are in the future. How can we brothers be willing to be left behind? Although we have killed countless people, we all have a clear conscience. We are worthy of the world. Boss said. Boss said. The Dharma Supreme's voice trembled slightly and then returned to normal. He said, Boss said, but this mission can only be completed by myself and I need your help. These 2 years, I have used a secret technique to collect the power of the dead souls outside and finally succeeded. Now, I only lack the souls of the tribulations. Then, Boss looked at us and said, Brothers, you are the tribulations. I will continue. Fifth brother, please wait for a while. Last night, I pulled another all-nighter and finished more than 3 chapters. And I wrote it very agitatedly. Now, I realize that there are too many mistakes. Please support me with your monthly votes. Chapter 2006. At this point, the Dharma Supreme should have paused for a moment, but he continued without hesitation. When Big Brother said this, the brothers immediately felt that something was amiss. They were all dumbfounded. Diwu Cho-chang laughed dryly and said, Big Brother, you're not going to kill us, are you? Big Brother said that I don't want to kill you. But I need your souls. Only your souls can mend the crack in the heavens. Diwu Cho-chang was silent for a moment. Then, he said, if we mend the heavens, what about you, Big Brother? Big Brother said, if I mend the heavens, the power of merit I obtain will be enough for me to break through the heavens and break through the void. At that time, I will naturally leave this world and enter another world to cultivate, or to work hard and start a new life. I heard that it is a paradise. You can have anything you want. Only those who have the merit to mend the heavens can enter. Big Brother said that your efforts are worth it. At this point, the Dharma Supreme finally fell silent. His throat trembled violently as he laughed bitterly. His laughter was hoarse. Paradise? Zi Xieching sent a telepathic message to Chu Yang, puzzled. Chu Yang shook his head slowly. This was too strange. Chu Yang knew very well that there was no such thing as a paradise. Could it be that this tribulation sword master was deceived by someone? But, who could deceive this tribulation sword master? Could it be the sword spirit? Chu Yang was deep in thought. His consciousness sank into the tribulation space. The sword spirit was still cultivating in seclusion. It could be seen that his body was becoming more and more solid. Chu Yang was puzzled. If there was such a thing, the sword spirit would definitely deceive him. But until now, the sword spirit had not mentioned it. Outside, the Dharma Supreme's hoarse voice sounded. His voice was still indifferent, but it could be heard. There was a hint of reluctance. At this time, the old fool asked, Big Brother, when you go to the new world, can I still follow you? I can't bear to leave you. Ha ha, ha ha, ha 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 ha. At this point, the Dharma Supreme suddenly laughed maniacally, laughing so hard that he bent over. Tears streamed down his face. He had always been calm and composed. Even when he was telling such a tragic story, such a cruel betrayal, he was still so calm that it was scary. However, when he mentioned the words of this little, he suddenly laughed crazily with a sad heart. Wu Qianqian couldn't help but shed tears as she listened to his miserable laughter. When the time comes. I still can't believe that boss would harm him. To think that you can't bear to do so and still want to follow him. To think that you still want to. Ha ha ha. The Dharma Supreme laughed maniacally as blood spurted out from his mouth. He wiped it off with his hand and continued to laugh uncontrollably. He laughed and trembled as he looked at Bu Liuqing. Gritting his teeth, he didn't care about his image at all. He twisted his neck and gritted his teeth as he said stubbornly, "You have brothers? I have one too. I have one too. I have more than you. Do you believe it? Do you believe it? Ha ha ha. How can I not believe it?" Bu Liuqing sighed. The feelings of tribulation have always moved the heavens and the earth. Part of the strength of the Tribulation Sword's master in mending the heavens is this feeling of not giving up even in life and death. The Dharma Supreme laughed out loud. He wiped away his tears. He burst into laughter. At that time, all the brothers didn't say anything. Only Boss said, "Little, I'm afraid I can't bring you along." Little was very disappointed and said, "Why?" Boss said, "Because after I used your soul to mend the heavens, you would die. But I'm still alive. So I can't bring you along." Little was very disappointed then. Yes. You didn't hear wrongly. He was very disappointed. He wasn't afraid, he was just disappointed and said, "Boss, I can't bear to part with all of you." Boss said, "You don't have to be reluctant, because all of you will die together." At this point, the Dharma Supreme finally stopped. He was panting heavily, and beads of perspiration were slowly seeping out from his smooth forehead. When he was fighting with Bu Liuqing earlier, the sky was spinning and the earth was spinning, but he didn't sweat or pant heavily. However, at this moment, he was panting heavily just by telling a story. We all fell silent. Then, Diwu Chochang asked, "Boss, when did you know about this?" When this question came out, everyone's eyes lit up. "Time is too important." Boss said, "From the moment I obtained the first fragment of the Sword of Calamity, I knew about it." When he said that, all the brothers suddenly stopped talking. They were all panting heavily, very heavily. After a long pause, second brother asked a question. At that time, I remember very clearly that second brother seemed to have used all his strength to ask that question. He even stuttered a little and his voice was very trembling. He asked, "So, all these years, you have been lying to us? You brought all the brothers to fight together, brought us to the heavens, just so you could use our souls to mend the heavens and then collect the power of karma to go to another paradise. All this time, you have been lying to us and using us." When second brother said that, all the brothers pricked up their ears. Although everyone already knew that this was a foregone conclusion, they still wanted to hear Boss say no. Because then, even if we died, we wouldn't be so sad. Boss sighed and said, "I also know that I have let all of you down, but I really want to go to that world. The temptation to me is too great. It's been hard on all of you to follow me for so many years, to serve me, to risk your lives for me, to do everything for me. But I have been lying to all of you and using all of you. I also feel very guilty. Really, I feel that I have let all of you down." When he said that, everyone was stunned. Then, at that time, I seemed to have heard the sound of my heart breaking very clearly. I cried. Before that, I only had happiness, only satisfaction and happiness. I had never cried before. But that day, after hearing this sentence, I cried. I cried. Boss continued to say emotionally, "Second brother, for me, when the steel knife came slashing at you, you threw yourself on my back and blocked the knife for me, almost dying. Third brother, for me, you once tested the poison with your own body and was poisoned to the point that you couldn't even speak for half a year. Fourth brother, for me, you didn't hesitate to use yourself as a hostage and allowed yourself to be captured without a fight. You were slashed 10 times on your body and your blood almost ran dry, just to let me live, to let me escape. Fifth brother, for me, you divined the fate of the heavens and your hair turned white overnight. Sixth brother, I know that you like Xiao Xiao. Xiao Xiao is your childhood sweetheart, I also know that. That day, when I pretended not to know about your matters and pretended to be drunk and told you that I like Xiao Xiao, you immediately backed out and went to the brothel the next day. You didn't hesitate to break Xiao Xiao's heart to fulfill my wish and let her marry me. This caused you to be unhappy all your life and never marry. Even to carry on the family line, you only took in a foster. Seventh brother. Brothers, I will never forget all of your kindness to me. I am proud to have all of you. And touch. Really. Eldest brother recounted the merits of our brothers one by one. He spoke very emotionally and even shed tears. But at that time, I only felt a bone-chilling coldness in my heart. I don't know what they were thinking, but I think that since my heart had already turned cold, they may not be as warm as me. The Dharma Supreme grinned and laughed as if he was crying. If it were me, my heart would also turn cold. Our brothers have done so many things for you, risking their lives for you, risking their lives for you, giving up everything for you, giving up everything for you. We helped you from a nobody to the current master of the heavens, and you actually want to kill them without a second word. Moreover, you want to use the lives of our brothers to exchange for a bright future for yourself. Is this fucker still human? Moreover, you even used despicable means to take advantage of our brother's feelings to snatch someone else's fiancé. Bu Liuqing couldn't believe that such a person actually existed in this world. There was only one thing that he was curious about. How did such a person become the master of Calamity Sword? How did he get the help of such hot-blooded men? How did he get such a sincere friendship? This was something that was completely unimaginable. Not only was Bu Liuqing puzzled, Zi Xieching and Wu Chanxian were also extremely puzzled. As the master of Calamity Sword, Chu Yang was even more puzzled. This was too incomprehensible. To be able to do this, how deep must one's heart be to be able to deceive others for their entire life? Then eldest brother said, "Brothers, since you have already done so much for me, now I only ask you to do one last thing for me. Give me your souls and fulfill my wish. We will be good brothers for all eternity." Fuck. Bu Liuqing couldn't help but curse. What kind of beast is this? The Dharma Supreme smiled faintly. When Bu Liuqing got angry, the Dharma Supreme regained his usual calmness and said, "Eldest brother said it once." Seeing that the brothers didn't say anything, he continued, "Actually, I didn't let all of you down. I brought all of you up to the heavens and helped you build big clans. Do you know? Your grandchildren will live and reproduce in the heavens for 10,000 years. 10,000 years. What kind of clan can have 10,000 years of glory? Although I don't claim credit for all these, if all of you didn't become a tribulation, where would such an opportunity come from? What's more, when have you ever lacked my help in every step you took? When did all of you lack my elixirs? My heavy elixirs, each of you ate more than one, right? My incomplete heavy elixirs, each of you should have at least 100 of them, right? Those elixirs that can increase your cultivation were all given by me. If not for me, how could all of you reach 7th grade supreme martial artist at such a young age? This is enough for all of you to be proud of. Now I only want you to give up your souls. Why are all of you so quiet over such a small matter? In the past, when all of you risked your lives for me, it was much more dangerous than now, but all of you were willing to do it. Back then, you could have died at any time. So why are all of you so unwilling now? Brothers, could it be that glory and wealth have made all of you change your minds? Hearing such shameless words, Chu Yang couldn't help but want to vomit. I am still writing chapters, there are still more than 1,000 words to go. I want to ask my brothers, will there be a 10th chapter today? To be continued. Chapter 2007. He had betrayed his brothers and used them right from the start. Now, he was saying that his brothers had changed their minds because of wealth and glory. This was utterly shameless. Bu Liuqing was so angry that he panted and even rolled his eyes. 510. In the eyes of a righteous person like him, this was the most hateful thing in the world. The Dharma Supreme laughed coldly and said, "Back then, I laughed coldly like this too. My brothers laughed coldly together because other than laughing coldly, we didn't know what else we could do or say. We didn't even have the energy to scold him." Big brother said, "Brothers, do you know that the Tribulation's Sword Master has a mission but also a punishment? If I can't mend the heavens with you, my whole family will suffer the wrath of the heavens. Can you bear to see me die?" The Dharma Supreme said indifferently. When he said this, we all spat. Bu Liuqing also spat. At that time, second brother said, We were willing to risk our lives for you. But now, it's not. Big brother, you are wrong. We brothers are willing to die for you. Not for anything else but for our brotherhood. You don't have to say anything. You just have to call us together and say that you now know of a new mission, which is to mend the heavens. If you can't complete it, your whole family will die. You just have to say this. Even if you are lying to us, I will immediately arrange my funeral and sacrifice my soul for Big Brother. At that time, second brother said, I am not stingy and I am not afraid of death. I have been born so many times for you. I have long recognized you as my big brother. When the big brother is in trouble, it is normal for brothers to sacrifice their lives for him. But you shouldn't have lied to us and used us. In the end, you even forced us. At that time, second brother said, if you say this, isn't it good that we are willing to sacrifice ourselves for you? Big brother, you have made a fool of yourself. Now that things have come to this, forgive me for not being able to comply. Well said. Bu Liuqing clapped his hands and praised, this second brother of yours is really something. The Dharma Supreme's face revealed a trace of pride and said, of course. Second brother's heroic spirit is unparalleled. Then what did your boss say? Bu Liuqing asked. Boss said, I've also considered it, and I also believe that my brothers would be willing to die for me. However, firstly, I was a little worried. After all of you are now vassals with high statuses and power, so it is inevitable that your mentality will change. Once one of them disobeyed and the other started to agitate, I was afraid that I would give myself away. If you can't complete the mission, you'll be killed. So, it's better to control you first. You won't be able to resist. Wouldn't that be safer? At that time, my second brother said, but even if you control us, you can just use us to mend the sky. Why do you have to tell us this before we die? At that time, second brother was in great pain and said, we didn't know anything, so it's fine if we died in a daze. But after knowing about this, don't you know how much our hearts hurt? Why are you like this? At this point, the Dharma Supreme paused. Bu Liuqing was at a loss. So, he said, that's right. In any case, he has the final say in everything. So, he could have just killed all of you directly. Furthermore, he had even tortured his brother for decades. How could he bear to do such a thing to his divine soul? What was his intention? The Dharma Supreme shook his head and smiled faintly. I knew that you wouldn't be able to guess the reason. Ha. At that time, other than Chocho, the few of us could only guess. The others couldn't guess it either. I still remember that after second brother finished asking, Diwu Chocho sighed and didn't say anything. Then, what was the reason? Bu Liuqing frowned and asked. He was really puzzled. He felt that this matter didn't make sense at all. At that time, Big Brother said, this is the second reason I told you. After all, we have been brothers for so many years. If I were to kill all of you just like that, I would feel guilty and it would be easy for me to have inner demons. Then, even if I were to go to paradise, I wouldn't be happy. That's why I want to tell you everything before you die. Bu Liuqing was still puzzled. Why? Could it be that after saying it, we would be able to avoid inner demons? That's ridiculous. It's not ridiculous. The Dharma Supreme said, at that time, Big Brother said that I had deceived all of you from the start and used all of you. Now, I want to kill all of you. Don't you hate me a lot? Our brothers' eyes were all burning and they nodded fiercely. I saw all 8 of them nodding and crying at the same time. Bu Liuqing, you don't know the kind of people we are. We are all people who are decisive in killing and wouldn't even frown when a sword is pointed at us. There were a few people like second brother, old 8th and the rest. This was the first time I saw them cry. Do you know what kind of feeling that was? Bu Liuqing sighed deeply. How heartbreaking that was. Each and every one of them was a man of steel. To be deceived and used for their whole lives. Even after death, they still had to let this person use their souls to achieve his goal. Yet, they only found out right before they died and couldn't do anything about it. How aggrieved must they be? How much resentment must they have? At that time, Big Brother said, that's right, I want all of you to hate me. The more you hate me, the happier I am. A violent look finally appeared in the Dharma Supreme's eyes, as if he was about to lose control of himself. However, he still controlled his voice with all his might, forcing himself to speak calmly. The more you hate me, the more justified I am in killing all of you. The less guilty I will feel, the less guilty I will feel, and the less guilty I will be, the less I will have inner demons. Since all of you hate me, then kill me. Since all of you want to kill me, then you are my enemy. I kill my enemy and use my enemy. What inner demons do I have to speak of? Boom. When the Dharma Supreme said this, Bu Liuqing couldn't take it anymore. He struck out with his palm, causing dust to fill the air dozens of miles away. He said angrily, "Bastard! Bastard! Bastard! Son of a B***tch. There is actually such a person in this world. What is this?" The Dharma Supreme laughed coldly and said, "Since ancient times, there have been 8 such bastards. The bastards have all succeeded. Now, the 9th bastard is growing up." Hearing this, Zi Xueqing quietly nudged Chu Yang and said telepathically, "Are you such a bastard?" Chu Yang was listening intently. He rolled his eyes at Zi Xueqing when he heard that. "Bastard! Bastard!" Bu Liuqing muttered angrily. Suddenly, he thought of his disciple Mo Qingwu. When he thought of Mo Qingwu, he thought of Chu Yang. He then remembered that Chu Yang was the first tribulation sword master. He couldn't help but be shocked. He thought, is Chu Yang such a bastard? However, no matter what, Little Wu likes him so much. It is too dangerous to be with him. I can't agree to it. I must tell Ning Tianya about this, and guard against it. When he thought of this, he suddenly thought of Dongfang Badao and asked, since that is the case, all of you should be dead for sure. How did you survive? The Dharma Supreme glared at him, as if blaming him for interrupting his narration. He didn't answer but continued to speak. When Big Brother finished speaking, all the brothers were filled with righteous indignation and couldn't help but scold. Diwu Chochang said, "Stop scolding. Big Brother has his own considerations. We should just support him and obey his arrangements unconditionally. Even if he wants us to use our souls to mend the sky, for Big Brother, we should sacrifice ourselves." At that time, everyone was stunned. They couldn't understand why Diwu Chochang would say that. Big Brother said, "Hehe, Chochang is indeed scheming. You actually want to praise me and follow my lead, causing me to have an inner demon. Now, it is useless to praise me, and even more useless to hate me. Ha ha ha." Then Big Brother said, "I am going to pack up and prepare to mend the sky with all of you. As brothers, if you have any unfulfilled wishes, you must tell me. I promise to fulfill them for all of you." Bu Liuqing didn't know what to say. He just kept scolding, "Bastard! Bastard! At such a time, he still calls us brothers and actually wants to fulfill your unfulfilled wishes. How ridiculous. Yes, ridiculous. We didn't speak at that time and didn't bother to speak to him. There were only 4 words in my heart at that time. I kept yelling, 'I am blind. I am blind. I am blind. I am blind.'" The Dharma Supreme had repeated the phrase "I am blind" over and over again for at least a dozen times. The more he said, the more pained and hateful his voice became. That kind of extreme frustration made Bu Liuqing sigh repeatedly. At that time, Big Brother waited for a long time. None of us spoke. Then he said, "Hey, looks like all of you don't bother to ask for my help. Since that is the case, I am asking for trouble." Then he walked out. Everyone wanted to speak but was stopped by Diwu Chochang. Diwu Chochang said, "Since we are all going to die, what is there to say or discuss? This is our fate. What can you do? With Big Brother's means, do you think he will let us escape?" Everyone thought about it and stopped talking. Everyone was used to seeing life and death. It doesn't matter if we die. Although it is a little aggrieved, we can only blame ourselves for being blind and choosing the wrong person. Chu Yang sighed in his heart. This brother was really an iron-blooded man, a real man with a true temperament. Although he already knew that this Big Brother was a bad person and wanted to kill him, he still called him Big Brother. Maybe it was a habit and he couldn't change the way he addressed him. But no matter what, until now, they had not said a single bad word. They suppressed all their emotions in their stomachs. After 8 hours, Diwu Cho-chang suddenly spoke and said hurriedly, "Everyone, listen to me." With his habit, he must have been eavesdropping just now. But it has been so long, he should have gone out. We don't have much time, so we can only take the risk. Everyone perked up. So this was Diwu Cho-chang's idea. The Dharma Supreme's tone gradually became agitated. Diwu Cho-chang said, "We are dead for sure, but we cannot die in vain. It is too aggrieved to die like this, too unworthy of our illustrious reputation. I have a way to let one of us have a slight chance of getting out alive. I am so tired. I will eat some food and write again. If everyone works hard, I will work hard. Your votes are my biggest motivation. First update, 10 chapters. I will never go back on my word." To be continued. Chapter 2008. Part 7, Chapter 322, Revenge. Revenge. Everyone asked, "What's the plan?" Cho-chang said, "Everyone knows the mind-linking technique. I believe everyone knows how to use it." Xie Kuan nodded. Kuan nodded, everyone nodded. Melancholy said hurriedly, "We won't be sealed like this forever. If he wants to use our souls, he will have to extract them from our bodies. But after extracting them, even though they will only be our souls and have no attacking power, we will still be free for a period of time." Everyone looked at each other. Cho-chang continued, "According to my guess, if he gets rid of us together, the place where he nourishes the sky should be a place. Moreover, we need to be sent to our respective positions together for this to work. Otherwise, he won't do this." Cho-chang said, "We happen to have one person. That means, one of us must be in the middle position. I don't know who this person is. It could be you, or it could be me. But it will be the spirit of one of us after all. Now, we only have a little time, and that is, the moment he sends us in, we will be out of his control. In this way, each of us will remember our own positions. Except for the one in the middle, the 8 people on both sides will try their best to transform their spirit power into the purest spirit power source in that short period of time and send it to the middle position. Try your best to send as much as you can." At that time, Cho-chang said, "Since it's the spirit nourishing the sky, it needs the power of the spirit. If the spirit has power, it can't be destroyed. So, the person with the strongest spirit power will have a little chance of survival. We are trying our luck by doing this. I don't know if it will work, but this is our only chance." Hearing this, Chu Yang couldn't help but praise, "Diwu is indeed worthy of his surname. He can actually think of such a plan at this time." Zi Xieching also nodded. Anyone who had reached this point could only wait for their death. But this Diwu Cho-chang obviously had a plan in mind. When the Tribulation Sword Master spoke, he should have thought of it. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so organized. Diwu Cho-chang was definitely a top talent in the world to be able to keep such a clear mind at such a moment. At that time, the brothers all said that no matter who this person was, as long as there was a slight chance that they could get out, as long as they could survive, they would avenge their brothers. No matter the cost. At that time, Diwu Cho-chang said, "Now, don't talk. Focus on nourishing your souls, and don't get angry." Once he was angry, his spirit would scatter, and he would not be able to provide any more help to his brother. Close your eyes. After that, we all closed our eyes and wholeheartedly stabilized the realm of our souls. Haha, at that time, although I didn't have any cultivation, I could feel that each and every one of my brothers was risking their life. He had never fought so hard before. It was all for the sake of transferring the power of his spirit to his brother at that critical moment. All for the sake of that slim chance of survival. The Dharma Supreme said pitifully. His eyes were a little red and blood was flowing out of his mouth. However, this time, he didn't wipe it away. He said in a low voice, as expected, after waiting for a period of time, he came back and came to talk to us. However, none of us bothered with him. He also felt bored and used some medicine. After that, we all fainted. When we woke up again, we were already in a strange place. In the void, there was a strange sound and a mysterious cave entrance slowly appeared. After that, that bastard grabbed us without hesitation, destroyed our physical bodies with each palm strike and extracted our souls. We didn't say a word. In our last moments, we only had time to look at each other. At the last moment, Diwu Chochang said something and his head was smashed into pieces. That sentence was, "Remember." Then, that person killed us, gathered our souls together, and threw them out with a swoosh. And I suddenly realized that I had entered the innermost cave entrance. At the moment when I entered the cave entrance, 8 waves of spirit power were transmitted over from 8 directions at the same time. At that time, I could only try my best to capture them bit by bit. Those were the lives of my brothers. The lives of my brothers. The lives of my brothers. The Dharma Supreme calmed down, tears seeping out of his eyes. I didn't dare to waste any of the 8 waves of spirit power. Perhaps the heavens were on my side, allowing me to collect them and integrate them into my body. At that time, I could feel the comfort and happiness of these spirits, as well as their expectations for me. After that, I was attracted by a strange suction force and entered that strange space. I realized that there was a spirit that had long been shattered in there. There were only a few fragments left and I didn't know who it was. However, I knew that it was Elder Jie who had met the same fate as me. Of all the spirits that could die here, which one of them wasn't a good man? Which one of them wasn't an unyielding husband? However, which one of them didn't die with grievances? Weren't they deceived, used, betrayed and then killed by the person they trusted the most? The Dharma Supreme laughed bitterly. I was inside and couldn't get out. I could only stay inside and feel my spirit power being depleted bit by bit. I kept on cultivating my spirit power, but it couldn't make up for the loss. However, the loss was also extremely slow. Thinking about it, every spirit inside had to hold on for hundreds of thousands of years. Ha ha ha, what kind of day was that? My brother is also enduring the same torment. I don't know how much time had passed, but my heart felt empty. I knew that one of my brothers had completely disappeared. I had this feeling 8 times in a row. I knew that my brothers were all gone. Only I was still here. I had their power in me. I worked even harder to cultivate. I wanted to live, I wanted to take revenge. I wanted to live on for them. At that time, I had already depleted all my power of the origin and was only left with the spirit power that they sent over before they entered. It was them who supported me and didn't let me die. Finally, one day, just when I felt that I couldn't hold on any longer, that cave suddenly opened. Then, a spirit was sent in. Only then did I know that 10,000 years had passed. I took this opportunity to sneak out. I found a dark place that didn't see the sun all year round to cultivate my spirit. Once I started cultivating, I cultivated for thousands of years. However, it was very difficult to take over someone's body. It was almost impossible. Because even if it was an ordinary person, their spirit was still complete. You can't drive his divine soul out of his body, unless you killed him. However, after killing him, I still couldn't use it. Even if it was someone on the verge of death, I tried, but it didn't work. Finally, one day, I sensed a person whose spirit was missing. The Dharma Supreme raised his head and looked at Bu Liuqing. It was Dongfang Badao. At that time, he had probably just deleted his memories. His spirit was missing a lot. This was my chance. However, he was still very strong at that time and I didn't have a chance. Once I was discovered by him, I was afraid that my spirit would be annihilated. So, I followed him secretly. Wherever he went, I followed. Finally, hard work paid off. He was a law enforcement officer and had a high cultivation. He often went out on missions to capture criminals. At that time, the 3 of them were competing for the position of the Dharma Supreme. It was based on his ability to enforce the law. He went to chase after a supreme being, but was besieged. Although he managed to kill those people, he himself was also on the verge of death, unconscious. I took advantage of this opportunity to enter his body. The Dharma Supreme stared at Bu Liuqing. Do you understand? Bu Liuqing sighed. I understand. Brother Bu, if you were me, would you kill Dongfang Badao, take over his body and wait for an opportunity to avenge your brothers at all costs? The Dharma Supreme asked solemnly. Yes, Bu Liuqing took a deep breath and said, "This vengeance must be avenged. I understand that you want to avenge your brothers." The Dharma Supreme said, "But I also want to avenge my brothers. Do you understand me?" "I understand you." Bu Liuqing's eyes gradually stood up. "However, you are taking over my brother's body. Therefore, although I understand you, I still want to kill you." "I understand." The Dharma Supreme chuckled and said indifferently, "If you don't kill me because of my words, that would be really strange." Bu Liuqing said, "If you want to take revenge, you should go to that Elysium. Why did you come here instead?" "I can't go up." The Dharma Supreme said frankly, "After I came out, I realized that Bastard's clan was already gone. I searched through the ancient books and couldn't find any clan of the Tribulation's Swordmaster. I hated it even more. Those guys must have ascended to heaven when one of them achieved the Tao. I really don't know about this." Bu Liuqing was also puzzled. There were big clans in every generation, but why didn't he see any clan of the Tribulation's Swordmaster? Therefore, I could only stay and cultivate, preparing to rush to that world to take revenge. However, during this time, I also wanted to eliminate all the helpers of the Tribulation's Swordmaster, such as the Dharma Supreme and the new Tribulation's Swordmaster. The Dharma Supreme smiled indifferently. His smile was filled with boundless murderous intent. I had just taken over his body and wasn't confident in controlling the law enforcement officers. I tried to trip the previous Tribulation's Swordmaster but still couldn't kill him. The fate energy of the Tribulation's Swordmaster was too strong. However, he wanted to destroy the bloodline of the Diwu clan that had been passed down till now, but I managed to save it. Now, although the Diwu clan is weak, it still exists. The Dharma Supreme said indifferently, his eyes revealing deep emotions. Chu Yang finally understood. The Diwu clan was obviously a big clan during the previous Tribulation's Swordmaster's time. They were enemies of the Tribulation's Swordmaster, but they didn't die out. So this was the reason. Although the Diwu clan was a subsidiary of the Zhuge clan, they held great power. So this was the reason. 7th update. I'm working hard. 8th update. Haha. 10th update. Can there be one? Can the number 1 in the monthly votes fulfill my wish? Begging for monthly votes. Chapter 2009. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. The Dharma Supreme's face gradually regained its initial calmness. His innate meridians started to gather spiritual energy again. He stood up slowly, with his hands behind his back and his long hair fluttering in the wind. He gazed at the rising sun and said, "Brother Bu, although you are my enemy, thank you for talking to me tonight." Bu Liuqing smiled bitterly. "Actually, you should talk to Wu Jueqing." The Dharma Supreme smiled and shook his head lightly. "Sad people can't talk to sad people. I also have a desire to confide in him and so does he. When the two of us are together, no matter how you listen to it, it's just the same story. When you know about yourself, you also know about him. What else is there to talk about?" He laughed and took a step forward. His figure was still in front of him but his real body was already thousands of feet away. "Brother Bu, I'll wait for you to find me anytime and fight to the death. If you don't find me, I'll find you after my injuries are healed." His voice faded and Bu Liuqing didn't chase after him. He let out a long sigh and stomped his feet. Then, he suddenly flew up and disappeared without a trace. With a swoosh, 3 people appeared at the place where Bu Liuqing and the Dharma Supreme were talking. Chu Yang, Zi Xieqing, and Wu Qianqian. Chu Yang frowned and let out a long sigh. "So, this is the Tribulation Swordmaster." Zi Xieqing also said meaningfully, "So, this is the Tribulation Swordmaster." She turned and looked at Chu Yang. "Chu Yang, what did you think of?" Chu Yang took a deep breath and smiled lightly. "Let's wait and see." Zi Xieqing laughed and said, "But, I may not be able to see it." Chu Yang said indifferently, "You will see it in the future. It's useless to say anything now. I promise that I won't do that to my brothers. Do you believe me?" "No." For 10,000 years, the 8 generations of tribulation sword masters have been like this. How can you, Chu Yang, be an exception? But I, Chu Yang, must be an exception. I must be an exception. Anyway, I've already died once. I'd rather die than do such a despicable, shameless, dirty, and beastly thing. Zi Sheqing smiled meaningfully. Wu Qianqian opened her eyes and looked at the two in confusion. He couldn't understand what the two of them were talking about. Let's go. Let's go back. Zi Sheqing smiled faintly and was about to grab the two of them and fly back. At this moment, the sky suddenly brightened. The sky was about to brighten. However, Zi Sheqing's hand, which was about to grab the two of them, suddenly loosened. She looked at the sky with a solemn expression. Chu Yang and Wu Qianqian couldn't help but look up. At the edge of the sky where the morning sun rose, there was a purple cloud moving rapidly. In almost an instant, it was above their heads. Chu Yang was surprised. He had never seen a cloud fly so fast. In the blink of an eye, dark clouds gathered overhead, followed by lightning and thunder. The light that had just appeared on the horizon was immediately suppressed. The sound of thunder was like a dull drum, constantly beating in the sky above their heads. The three of them felt oppressed and heavy in their hearts at the same time, as if something bad was about to happen. The clouds were getting lower and lower. The pressure was getting heavier and heavier. Zi Sheqing's expression became more and more solemn. Chu Yang muttered, "What is this? Is this the power of heaven?" Zi Sheqing bit her lips and silently looked at the clouds that were getting lower and lower, as if they had condensed into a solid substance. Suddenly, she struck Wu Qianqian's neck with her palm. Wu Qianqian fainted without making a sound. "What are you doing?" Chu Yang was shocked. Zi Sheqing looked at Chu Yang with a complicated expression and said softly, "They are here to find me. My existence has affected the balance of the heavens. And I used the heavenly sun-purple cloud in my attack just now. I was discovered. This matter cannot be known to Qianqian." Chu Yang was shocked and dumbfounded. "Then what should we do?" Zi Sheqing took a breath and said, "For experts like us, no matter which plane we are in, we can't destroy the balance of the plane. If we just stay there, there won't be any problems. But once we reveal enough power to destroy the balance, we will be punished. If I were a native, it would be easier, but I'm not. And Bu Liuqing and the Dharma Supreme are the top figures of this heavens. So, when I interfered in their battle, it became such a situation." Chu Yang was shocked. "Then why didn't you say so earlier? Since you already knew, why did you still intervene?" Zi Sheqing's expression was a little complicated. She said, "I have to leave sooner or later. Now, it's just a little earlier than expected. The only difference is that I can leave on my own, or I can be caught by someone." Chu Yang raised his eyebrows. "Caught?" "Yes. Usually, when there is such a situation, you will be caught and not be put in a spot. It's just that you are not allowed to stay here any longer." Zi Sheqing looked deeply at Chu Yang and said softly, "Chu Yang, you must take care. You must take care. What if I don't let you go?" Chu Yang asked in a low voice. Zi Sheqing's delicate body trembled and she smiled bitterly. "You won't let me go? This is heaven's authority." Chu Yang sneered. "In my life, I have always been going against heaven. Heaven's authority? So what if I offend it one more time?" Zi Sheqing sighed in her heart. How could she not know that she would be caught if she revealed her true strength today? But she didn't dare to stay any longer, especially beside Chu Yang. Zi Sheqing had never spent so much time with a young man in her life. And she had never appreciated and loved any other young man as much as she did Chu Yang. Since the beginning of the Black Blood Forest, she took pleasure in torturing Chu Yang. Although she was also collecting Tao state energy, she also wanted to see how far this stubborn young man could go. But she didn't expect that no matter what, as long as it was a battle, Chu Yang would be full of energy. No matter how cruel it was, no matter how many times he failed, Chu Yang's fighting spirit would only be higher and would never diminish. The more he was defeated, the braver he became. Along the way, Zi Sheqing was also constantly squeezing Chu Yang's bottom line. She even thought, When I'm forcing out your last bit of potential, can you still be so stubborn? But all the way until they reached Tianji City, although Chu Yang was exhausted and bruised every day, he never once said anything soft. The most terrible thing was that even when he said something soft, he was actually teasing her. Zi Sheqing became more and more unconvinced, and her attacks became more and more ruthless. Chu Yang's resistance also became stronger and stronger. Until Chu Yang reached Tianji City, the two of them fought more frequently. Zi Sheqing couldn't squeeze out all of Chu Yang's potential. Until that time when Chu Yang was breaking through, Zi Sheqing had no choice but to use the cruelest method to help him. Zi Sheqing absolutely believed that even a supreme martial artist wouldn't be able to withstand that kind of cruel punishment. But Chu Yang came up with his own idea to let her torture him. But he persevered and even broke through. At that moment, Zi Sheqing almost shed tears. It was at that moment that Zi Sheqing felt that her state of mind had changed. In the past, she was a loner. Other than wanting to repay a debt of gratitude and wanting to see her benefactor and say thank you, she didn't have any other concerns. Her heart was like flowing water, unrestrained and unrestrained like the clouds, free and unrestrained. But from that day onwards, her heart seemed to have an additional concern. And this concern was Chu Yang. She even had a thought, I don't want Chu Yang to go through that kind of pain again. That was why she helped Chu Yang with this and that. She even brought Chu Yang out today to let him watch the supreme martial artist peak battle, to pave the way for his future and to reduce his bottleneck. But after that period of time, Zi Sheqing felt that she couldn't let go. Sometimes, she would even dream about it. At this moment, Zi Sheqing finally felt that something was wrong. That was why she suddenly decided to expose her strength today and wanted to leave this place. He was going to leave anyway. It didn't matter if he left sooner or later. Since that was the case, it was better to do it sooner rather than later. Although she hadn't replenished her Tao state energy, what she had now was enough for her to withstand the heavenly wrath once and then enter the great Tao void to replenish her Tao state energy. If she continued to stay, she was afraid that she would feel even more uncomfortable. If she wanted to stay but couldn't bear to leave after replenishing her Tao state energy, that would be truly uncomfortable. That was why she didn't hesitate to attract the heavenly wrath to save herself from this emotional whirlpool. Although it would be very painful, Zi Sheqing really didn't want to immerse herself in this emotional whirlpool even more. But just now, when Zi Sheqing heard Chu Yang say, "What if I don't let you go?" her heart suddenly felt sour and sweet. For a moment, she actually had mixed feelings. But she immediately controlled herself and didn't say anything. "You will be punished for going against the heavens," Zi Sheqing said softly. She gently reached out her hand and touched Chu Yang's face. She said softly, "After I leave, don't miss me. Live well and live your life well." Chu Yang stared at her and said irritably, "Didn't you hear? I mean, what if I don't let you go? What can I do to make you stay?" He actually started to question her. If it was in normal times, Zi Sheqing would usually give him a slap and then kick him on his butt to make him fly in the air again. But now, Zi Sheqing felt a sense of satisfaction in her heart. She actually felt a little sweet towards this rough reprimand. She bit her lips, with a satisfied smile in her eyes, and said softly, "There's no other way." Chu Yang was stunned. A thunderclap resounded in the sky, and a majestic sound of thunder rolled over. It seemed to be coming from afar, and gradually resounded above their heads. It was deafening. At the same time, a huge golden hand suddenly stretched out from the clouds in the sky. It carried a majestic aura that could not be defied, and it suddenly grabbed down. A voice said indifferently in the sky, "How dare you, lowly servant? How dare you break the balance of space? Quickly follow me back to be interrogated." Zi Sheqing's face turned pale and her lips trembled. Then, she looked deeply at Chu Yang's face, grabbed Chu Yang and Wu Qianqian, and threw them far away. Chu Yang screamed crazily, and twisted his waist in midair. She had only thrown him halfway, and he suddenly stopped. Then, he rushed back like a lightning, begging for votes, rushing to the first place, crazily saying, "I want 10 more votes. I want 10 more votes. I'm already crazy." Chapter 2010. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Wu Qianqian flew far away and landed on a flat ground. She fainted unscathed. Go back. Zi Xieching shouted at Chu Yang. Her white robe and hair fluttered in the wind. Chu Yang turned a deaf ear to her and ran back. Zi Xieching had a complicated look in her eyes. She bit her plump lips and looked at Chu Yang's running figure. Her eyes seemed to be glistening with tears. The golden hand in the sky suddenly descended and grabbed at Zi Xieching. Zi Xieching did not move. She just looked at Chu Yang's running figure in a daze. She did not dodge the giant hand in the sky. It was about to grab Zi Xieching's shoulder, but Chu Yang was still 400 feet away. The golden hand emitted a bright golden light and covered Zi Xieching's body. Zi Xieching's face showed a trace of pain. She slowly rose up and opened her mouth towards Chu Yang, who was running on the ground. She seemed to be saying something. Chu Yang could not hear it. Judging from the shape of her mouth, she seemed to be saying take care. Chu Yang felt a sudden pain in his heart. He howled like a wounded beast. He looked up to the sky and roared. With a swoosh, he pulled out Calamity Sword. Then, he let out a furious roar and soared into the sky. At this moment, Chu Yang used all his strength, all his potential and all his willpower to launch the most powerful attack since he started his cultivation journey. The long sword instantly formed a huge storm. Chu Yang roared hoarsely. A ray of cold light pierces 10,000 feet. What harm is there in slaughtering the whole world? A sharp wool buried deep will not change. A gathering of wind and clouds is the emperor. A sword blade that has been famous for all eternity. Wind and clouds move from east to west. The sun and the moon are my lightning generals. Splitting mountains and breaking peaks, the sky is blood red. A blade across the sky for 10,000 years. This road leads to the netherworld. Cutting off the sentimental traveler, everything ends where the blade shines. Iron walls and bronze walls fight without end. What more can one ask for in this life? Clouds and clouds gather together. You have no worries when I'm alive. The crazy sword aura formed a torrent. They shot up from the ground in a majestic manner, leaving behind a dazzling rainbow in the air. They carried an indestructible will and a determination that would rather die than regret as they shot towards the giant golden hand in the air. You want to leave? I won't stop you. But you have to leave on your own. We can't be captured. Chu Yang shouted crazily. And L, and G, net. The sword point, sword edge, and sword guard all let out excited sword cries at the same time. This was the first time the four parts of the sword had worked together to attack. A piercingly cold murderous aura instantly froze the vast sky. Zi Xieching's expression changed drastically. She struggled with all her might and shouted, "Don't!" It actually broke free from the golden hand and flew down. There was a sound of surprise in mid-air, as if it was surprised that Zi Xieching was able to break free from its grasp. The huge golden hand paused for a moment before continuing to grab her. But he saw Chu Yang's sword light attacking him like a thunderbolt. He couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. The big hand turned and slapped towards Chu Yang. A dignified voice said, "You're just a grain of rice, yet you dare to offend the heavenly might. Die." Zi Xieching let out a shrill cry and shot out like a bolt of lightning. It was obvious that she was extremely anxious. She was not even a match for this huge golden hand. Chu Yang was just a speck of light that was the size of a grain of rice, and he actually attacked it. Wasn't this courting death? But Chu Yang had already flown up at full speed and was coming towards her. That huge golden hand also passed by Zi Xieching. It grabbed towards Chu Yang fiercely. Zi Xieching couldn't make it in time. She shouted anxiously, "I'll go back with you. I'm willing to accept the punishment. Don't hurt him. I was going to leave, but I don't have enough Dao state power to break the barrier. Did you hear that? I'm willing to go back with you." But that huge golden hand was completely indifferent. It continued to grab towards Chu Yang. The voice said indifferently, "Those who offend the heavenly might, die." Zi Xieching was instantly panicked and heartbroken. And L, and G, net. "Chu Yang, I told you not to be rash. But you," Her body was still rushing forward, but her mind seemed to have gone blank. It was as if she had lost consciousness. Chu Yang roared furiously. The 10 moves of the Tribulation Sword technique merged into an unprecedented torrent. In just a moment, it violently hit the huge golden hand. The huge golden hand paused and pushed forward. In the clouds, that voice suddenly let out an "ah." It wasn't painful, but it was full of shock. Then, the huge golden hand suddenly retracted. Even its strength seemed to have disappeared. Chu Yang's Tribulation Sword came into contact with the huge golden hand. With a bang, Chu Yang felt as if he had directly hit a mountain made of star steel. The force of the impact made Chu Yang cry out and fly back. But it was just this contact that the huge golden hand suddenly retracted its strength. How sharp was the Tribulation Sword? Not to mention the power of 10 moves of the Tribulation Sword technique at the same time. Countless strands of Tribulation Sword chi exploded on the giant hand. With a boom, a finger of the giant golden hand was cut off at the same time. The finger fell down and landed on the ground. It actually smashed a deep hole in the ground. It lay at the bottom of the hole. In midair, that voice let out another "A." The huge golden hand stopped in midair. Zi Xieching rushed over and saw Chu Yang lying on the ground with a pale face, bleeding from his 7 orifices. He was already unconscious and on the verge of death. Looking at his injuries, it was obvious that his internal organs had been severely damaged. Zi Xieching bit her lip and hurriedly treated his injuries. She was worried about that huge golden hand. As she channeled her energy into Chu Yang, she looked up and said, "Please don't move for the time being. Let me treat his injuries first." "Okay." There was actually a hint of pleading in her voice. For Zi Xieching, who had been strong all her life, this was the first time she spoke to someone like this. The voice in midair didn't speak, but that huge golden hand stopped in midair. It also didn't move. After a long while, that deep voice said, "Your Tao state power is insufficient. You can't break through the space barrier." Zi Xieching said as she treated Chu Yang's injuries, "Yes." That voice muttered to himself, "But this little. Why is he holding the Emperor's sword? Could he be?" Suddenly, he snorted and said, "Then leave this place immediately after you finish collecting the Tao state power and replenish your energy." Zi Xieching was overjoyed and said, "Okay. Once I'm done collecting, I'll leave immediately." That voice snorted and said, "I'll keep an eye on you. If you don't leave by then, don't blame me for not showing mercy." Suddenly, with a whoosh, the dark clouds shrank back. Then, the dark clouds in the sky suddenly rose up and disappeared. In the far east, a red sun rose. Everything returned to normal, as if nothing had happened at all. Zi Xieching was actually stunned. What was going on? This messenger, why did he leave so easily? He had come with such great momentum, yet he had actually given up and left. Not only did he not want to capture her, he had even left half of his finger behind. This was too inconceivable. Such a powerful person actually left after being hurt by Chu Yang, who was like an ant in his eyes. Zi Xieching took the time to treat Chu Yang's injuries and carefully thought about it. She was puzzled. Suddenly, she thought of something that the voice said, "But this little. Why is he holding the Emperor's sword? Could he be?" Suddenly, her heart trembled. Could it be because of Chu Yang? The Emperor's sword? What emperor? What level was he? Chu Yang actually held the Emperor's sword. What did this mean? If this was the case, the one who folded the heavens continent back then must be this Emperor. And the Calamity Sword was the sword of this emperor? All the previous Calamity Sword owners had always been. Zi Xieching was lost in thought, her heart was very confused. With a groan, Chu Yang woke up. Before he opened his eyes, he sat up suddenly. But it affected his injuries and he couldn't help but groan in pain. He opened his eyes and saw Zi Xieching in front of him. He couldn't help but be overjoyed. "You weren't caught. He was chased away by you." Zi Xieching didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She revealed a gentle smile and said softly, "Yes, he was chased away by you." Chu Yang laughed and shook his head. "Don't I know my own limits? I don't have such great abilities." Suddenly, he blinked and said, "Big Sister Z, your voice was so gentle just now. It gave me goosebumps." Z Sheqing was angry and wanted to laugh at the same time. She raised her eyebrows and stared at him. She reached out and grabbed his ear, twisting it. "If you know your own limits, why did you not care about your life and collide with it? Do you know that you will die if you do that?" Chu Yang grimaced. "Ouch, ouch, ouch, say it if it hurts." Z Sheqing added more strength and roared fiercely. Chu Yang turned his head in the direction where his ear was twisted. He grinned, scratched his head and laughed. "It was only after I collided with it that I realized my limits. Before I collided with it, I didn't." Z Sheqing wanted to flare up and twist his ears again, but for some unknown reason, a smile suddenly rushed to her heart and she let out a chuckle. Chu Yang felt as if he had been pardoned. "Big Sister, quickly let go of your hand. I don't want to tire you out." "That would be my fault." Z Sheqing finally let go of her hand. She smiled and said, "If you're afraid of pain, behave yourself in the future." Chu Yang rolled out a few steps and bowed. He said with a bitter face, "Yes, yes, I won't dare to do it again." "Sigh. Why are you like my mother?" Z Sheqing said angrily. "What did you say?" Chu Yang covered his head and scurried away. After a round of laughter, it was as if the previous incident didn't happen at all. Neither of them mentioned that Z Sheqing wanted to leave. But both of them seemed to feel that there was something more in their hearts, something more change, and the relationship between the two of them seemed to be a little different, but Chu Yang wisely didn't continue to think about it. Z Sheqing also suppressed this feeling deep in her heart. Both of them knew that it was impossible for them to be with each other. Chu Yang laughed and was about to carry Wu Qianqian back. After taking a few steps, he suddenly realized that there was a big pit in front of him. Chu Yang went forward to take a look and saw that there was a golden light inside. He couldn't help but be surprised. He said, "What is this? Can the monthly votes be first? I'll continue to write." Chapter 2011. Z Sheqing pursed her lips and said, "I don't know what kind of luck you have to have such a good thing. Quickly go down and bring it up. This is your spoils of war." "My spoils of war?" Chu Yang was surprised. When the golden finger fell down, he had already fainted. Naturally, he didn't know that he could create such an earth-shattering result. Although the other party went easy on him, Chu Yang picked it up and immediately groaned at the bottom of the pit. "Damn it, my injuries haven't healed yet. I can't move it. What is this thing? It's too heavy." Then, he threw an incomplete version of the heavy pill into his mouth. Z Sheqing couldn't help but laugh. She said, "If you can't move it, then you can stay down here. I'll go get Qianqian." With a swoosh, she left. This woman. Chu Yang secretly cursed under his breath. Z Sheqing pretended not to hear him and left. Chu Yang sat down below and mobilized his energy to heal his injuries. Then, he suddenly realized that when he was mobilizing his energy, he suddenly felt that the energy in the air suddenly increased. The pure spiritual energy of heaven and earth rushed to his mouth and nose, almost suffocating him. Where did such pure and rich spiritual energy of heaven and earth come from? Chu Yang opened his eyes in shock and saw that the golden thing was emitting rich spiritual energy. As he breathed, the spiritual energy turned into two long dragons and rushed towards his nostrils. It wasn't a waste at all. The serious injuries in his body were almost instantly healed by the incomplete version of the heavy pill. When the spiritual energy rushed in, he actually recovered instantly and his cultivation even improved. It was only a few breaths. Damn it! Chu Yang jumped up in shock. What good thing is this? It's so awesome. He hurried over. He pulled it and looked. This thing was the size of a millstone, but it was heavy, at least 7,000 to 8,000 kilograms. Chu Yang scratched his head and walked around this thing. He said to himself, "Why does it look like the pad of a finger? This piece on the edge, could it be a fingernail? But where can there be such a big hand?" Suddenly, he remembered the big hand that grabbed Z Sheqing before he fainted. He couldn't help but tremble. Could this be from that big hand? He recalled Z Sheqing's words, "Those are your spoils of war." Chu Yang cursed. His eyes widened. Am I really that awesome? You actually managed to chop off a piece of this huge hand. Chu Yang felt a lingering fear in his heart as he thought about the world-destroying might of that big hand. He felt that his calves were about to cramp up. His legs felt weak, and his back felt cold. He sat down on the ground with a plop sound. Beads of cold sweat continuously appeared on his forehead. Oh my God! Minister Chu muttered. Chu Yang gazed at this half-severed finger as he pondered. Looking at the power of the golden hand, his sword was powerful. But it shouldn't have hurt him. Why did he chop off a piece of it? There was something strange about this matter. This half of the gold finger ended along with Chu Yang. Surprisingly, the spiritual aura on it no longer emanated, and it returned to being a quiet, millstone-sized, half-finger. Chu Yang stretched out his hand and tried to poke it. He discovered that this thing actually had a faint elasticity. It doesn't feel like human flesh. Chu Yang scratched his head in confusion. At this moment, Zi Sheqing's telepathic voice rang in his ears. Keep the gold finger. We're going back. Chu Yang responded with an "oh." He hurriedly kept the gold finger into the space. As soon as he opened the space, he saw the sword spirit asking excitedly, "What good stuff did you get? Why is it so powerful? I could feel it even when I was in seclusion." Chu Yang rolled his eyes. Then he heard the sword spirit exclaim, "Oh my God! Isn't this a divine bone?" Chu Yang was startled. He asked, "What divine bone?" The sword spirit looked at the gold finger greedily and murmured, "Divine bone." Oh my God! Annoyed, Chu Yang picked up this half-severed finger and threw it into the space. It hit the sword spirit squarely in the face. The sword spirit nimbly fell to the ground with a loud thud. Even though his mouth was stuffed by the gold finger, he still managed to mutter, "Oh, the Star Lake. I'm so happy." Chu Yang was speechless. The sword spirit finally moved it away from his face. Suddenly, he cried, "But I'm in pain too." "What are you in pain about?" Chu Yang wondered. "Didn't you just say you're so happy?" The sword spirit said painfully, "I said I saw the divine bone and I'm so happy. But I'm cultivating my spirit now, so I can't absorb the power in it. I'm in pain." Chu Yang rolled his eyes and said, "I've been worried that you'd steal it. You can't absorb it? That's great." The sword spirit was speechless. He stopped talking. His silence piqued Chu Yang's interest. "What's the use of this divine bone?" The sword spirit said, "It's very useful. You can cultivate it. The spiritual energy emanating from it is the most original spiritual energy of heaven and earth. This large piece is probably enough for you to absorb for a while. Also, after you've absorbed the spiritual energy, you can refine this divine bone a little and it will become a divine weapon. Its hardness and sharpness can be called the best in this heaven apart from the tribulation sword." "So good." Chu Yang was excited. "You can go to sleep now. I'm in seclusion." The sword spirit was speechless and defended himself. He rolled his eyes and continued his seclusion. Chu Yang jumped out of the pit and saw Wu Qianqian looking at him curiously. She asked, "Chu Yang, why did you jump into the pit?" Before Chu Yang could answer, Zi Sheqing said, "He was smacked down by me." Wu Qianqian was shocked. The three of them packed up. Zi Sheqing grabbed one of them with each hand and tore open the space with the other. She stepped back. Feng Yuro and Yu Lingxue had already searched the entire Tianji city but didn't find Wu Qianqian. Both of them knew that as long as Zi Sheqing said Wu Qianqian was fine, then she was really fine. But if they didn't see their disciple alive in front of them, they wouldn't be at ease. Seeing that the sun had already risen, the couple sat in Jiaxiu building, speechless. "Where did she go?" Feng Yuro asked. "Did the elder lie to us?" Yu Lingxue said, "Definitely not. With that elder's cultivation, she probably wouldn't be interested in lying to us." Although he said so, his eyes were still looking at the door. Feng Yuro said, "That's true." At this moment, a clear and cold voice said, "Catch your disciple." Then, there was a whoosh. With a whoosh, a figure flew in through the window from the sky and landed in Feng Yuro's arms. Feng Yuro was overjoyed. She said, "Thank you, elder." Zi Sheqing said, "You're welcome. Goodbye." Feng Yuro hurried out with Wu Qianqian in her arms. Elder, I still have something to ask you. When she came out, there was no one in front of her. She couldn't help but feel lost. Yu Lingxue comforted her from behind. This elder doesn't have any ill intentions towards us. We'll have a chance to meet her. Since she said so, she'll definitely have a way to help us. Besides, we've been here for so many years, why would we care about a little more time? Feng Yuro sighed and said, You don't know. Every time I see other women carrying their children happily, I'm so envious. Sigh. At this moment, Wu Qianqian in her arms moaned and woke up. Are you all right, Qianqian? What happened? Feng Yuro asked with concern. At the same time, she checked her disciple's body. After circulating her internal energy, she was relieved. Her disciple's clothes were neat and tidy, and she was still a virgin. She definitely didn't encounter any of those terrible things. Wu Qianqian said, I don't know either. It's just that, from Wu Qianqian's mouth, this matter was of course all the fault of the Lan clan. Moreover, after she was drugged, she was saved by Zi Sheqing. Then, Zi Sheqing brought her to look for Chu Yang. It was Chu Yang who went through a lot of trouble to get rid of the poison without ruining her reputation, and so on. This Chu Yang is really a good kid. He's really a kind and honest perfected lord. Feng Yuro sighed. Who are you talking about? Chu Yang. Yu Lingxue frowned and said, Which Chu Yang? How many Chu Yangs do you know? Feng Yuro frowned and asked. I know. The sweetheart of Ning Tianya and Bu Liuqing's disciple. His name is Chu Yang. Yu Lingxue's expression was strange. He said, Could it be him? The sweetheart of Ning Tianya and Bu Liuqing's disciple? Wu Qianqian was stunned. Was there such a coincidence? Who was Ning Tianya and Bu Liuqing's disciple? Immediately, under the questioning of Yu Lingxue and Feng Yuro, Wu Qianqian followed what she had discussed with Zi Sheqing. Her answer was flawless. Moreover, she also said that the two 8th-grade martial saints of the Yi clan had once ambushed her at the Shuiyu Lake and wanted to kill her. And, of course, she was saved by Chu Yang that time. The two venerables were filled with boundless gratitude towards Chu Yang, but at the same time, they were furious at the Yi clan. Zi Sheqing knew that Feng Yuro was going to ask her about having children. But now, after Chu Yang's explanation, what she was most afraid of was that Moon Breeze would ask her about having children. How could she not quickly slip away? If he was caught and asked about this matter, it would be extremely embarrassing. He wouldn't even have a place to put his face. Besides, she was still carrying Chu Yang with her other hand. Now that she had already sent Wu Qianqian down, it seemed inappropriate to carry Chu Yang with one hand, so she just hugged him in her arms. Chu Yang was in luck this time. He only felt that he was suddenly surrounded by a soft and fragrant body. Minister Chu nestled happily in Zi Sheqing's arms, pretending to be asleep. He was even murmuring in his sleep. His face, however, intentionally or unintentionally, moved closer to Zi Sheqing's towering chest. Finally, touched, blissful, young Master Chu almost fainted. So big, so firm, so soft, just as he was intoxicated, he was suddenly thrown to the ground with a bang. Immediately after, he was kicked in the butt and fell flat on his face. He heard Zi Sheqing scolding, "Stinky hooligan." Chu Yang smiled embarrassedly. When he opened his eyes, he saw that they had already returned to the Orchard Palace. But the next moment, Chu Yang and Zi Sheqing were stunned at the same time. Why was the door of the Orchard Palace wide open? It was so noisy inside. From the looks of it, it was as if a bandit had come. Chu Yang's heart trembled. He screamed, "Le-er," and rushed in fiercely. 10 chapters, haha, as I said earlier, the first 10 chapters. But it's not the first. Since that's the case, I'll use 10 chapters to exchange for the first. Is that okay? I'm really at my wit's end, I can't take it anymore. I haven't slept for a day and a night. I'll just write a single chapter and go to sleep. I hope that tomorrow morning, I'll see everyone give me a surprise. To be continued. Chapter 2012. Part 7 Chapter 320 I have a clear conscience. The supreme martial artist sighed and was speechless. Xie Kuan nodded. It turned out that Chu Yang did not know what the operation was. Chu Yang only knew that there was a conspiracy against Wu Xian, but he did not know that there was another elder of the divine tribe. He was just an idiot who was being used as a tool by others. He was just a slightly smarter idiot. Yi Shifeng was naturally asking Chu Yang when the Lan clan would take action to snatch the elder of the divine tribe. However, Chu Yang was at a critical juncture and naturally thought that Yi Shifeng was asking when the Yi clan would take action to shift the blame. At that time, I told Brother Yi, take note, the Lan clan will definitely take action on the night of the 12th lunar month. Chu Yang said, we are all smart people, we know when to stop. Yi Shifeng understood what I meant and laughed heartily. We drank to our heart's content before leaving. Yi Shifeng was a pervert. Yi Di's face turned black. After paying a huge piece of spirit jade ginseng, he received a piece of deceptive news. This matter has been like this since the beginning. This is the origin of the Yi clan's information. Chu Yang said proudly, Lord Yi Di, if you don't believe me, you can call Yi Shifeng over, I will confront him on the spot. Yi Di's face turned even darker. Yi Shifeng is already dead, I'll call him over. Why don't you call him over? Why don't you try? The supreme martial artist's expressions were also very interesting. This guy is really interesting, asking Yi Di to confront a dead person. How could Chu Yang not know that Yi Shifeng was already dead? Even when Yi Shifeng died, he was beside him. Yi Shifeng's death was also caused by him, but now, he had to pretend that he did not know, and his pretense was flawless. He pretended to be righteous. I believe you. Yi Di pinched his nose and said while holding back his anger. For more than 1,000 years, when have I ever held back my anger like this? And in front of a 10-year-old kid? Yi Di felt that his self-restraint was really good at this moment. If that's the case, then it's understandable that you told the Yi clan the information. However, the Xiao clan did not participate in this and did not take any action. Why did you give us the information? 40 to 50 of our experts were killed last night, Xiao Se said. Chu Yang retorted, since your Xiao clan doesn't intend to take action or participate, then why did so many people die here? Xiao Se was speechless. Yi Di laughed gloatingly and said, that's right. Your Xiao family didn't participate in the planning or the operation. Why did so many people die in our Yi family's place? Isn't it because of this little guy? Xiao Se said angrily. Kuan nodded, but if you don't plan to take action, why did you send someone to buy information from him? If they don't plan on taking action, they probably won't take action even if the news is delivered to their doorstep. Yi Di mocked. Yes. At that time, the Xiao clan came looking for me. Chu Yang said innocently, since the Xiao clan didn't receive any news, then they must not be in cahoots with the Lan clan. Then they must be helping the Yi clan. Since I had already decided to get rid of Lan Chunga's control, the more help the Yi family had, the better. Therefore, when Master Xiao came looking for me, I basically gave him the information without any nonsense. Chu Yang said very righteously, moreover, although I received benefits, but, if I didn't, Master Xiao would think that the information I gave was not necessarily reliable. All the supreme martial artists nodded secretly. Humans were like this. If someone gave you something for free, especially someone you didn't know well, you would instead think that there was a problem or that the person was trying to frame you. Only if you spent a huge amount of money to buy it, you would instead cherish it more and you would definitely believe it. As for the family, it was Master Meng Se who came looking for me. Moreover, Master and I have known each other for a long time in the upper three heavens. Our temperaments are quite compatible. Chu Yang didn't wait for Ching Cho to ask and continued, I am a forthright person and I am free and easy in handling matters. I admire my brother very much. Since he came looking for me, how could I not give him face? Chu Yang said, moreover, at that time, my brother was very understanding of me. He once said that if it was inconvenient for me, I should just pretend that he didn't say anything. But, my brother treats me as a friend and is so considerate of me. How can I, Chu Yang, not be loyal? All the supreme martial artist's expressions became even more strange. Alright, when it was with Yi Shifeng, it was out of fear, when it was with the Xiao clan, it was out of safety. Now that you are back at home, you are talking about loyalty. Do you know that it's fine that you're being so loyal, but you almost killed your good brother, and the loss to the family is even greater. Furthermore, you received benefits first. No matter what, I will not let my brother down. Therefore, I caught up with him and told him this news. Chu Yang said righteously, my brother treats me with sincerity, so I will definitely repay him with loyalty. When friends are friends, it is important to treat each other with sincerity. When this sentence was said, even the Dharma Supreme almost fainted. This fellow was speaking with assurance here, yet he didn't know how many people in the clan had died because of his repayment of loyalty. All the supreme martial artists looked at Chu Yang, who spoke with assurance, righteousness, loyalty and magnanimity. They couldn't help but feel their teeth ache. Moreover, at that time, I also told Brother Yi that this matter was a huge whirlpool. I told him to be careful. And he also promised me then. We were reluctant to part and parted at the entrance of the Orchard Palace. Chu Yang said with a clear conscience, I can confront Brother Meng Se about this matter at any time. Ching Cho nodded weakly and waved his hand. There is no need to confront him. At this point, the interrogation had reached a stalemate. This fellow didn't know the real issue at all. How could he continue? In that case, you don't know what they were looking for you for, the Dharma Supreme asked. Of course I know. Chu Yang said with some grievance. At that time, Yi Shifeng, Lan Chang'e, Zhuge Changchang, Brother Mengse, as well as the Shi clan, Xiao clan, Chen clan and Li clan were all crazily pursuing Wu Xian. Which one of them didn't covet her? That day, they almost fought at the Jiaxiu Tower. And now, Duke Lan Chang'e wants to use this method to achieve his goal. I believe all of you won't agree to it. You mean, this whole matter is because of jealousy? Li Xiangxi was speechless. Isn't it? Chu Yang was stunned. Then, he sighed and said with emotion, Femme fatale, this really makes sense. All the supreme martial artists sat upright with their eyes down and their noses down to their hearts. No one said a word. Chu Yang's mouth was not idle. He laughed bitterly and said, Lan Chang'e said that he wanted to help me marry the beauty, how can I not know? If this matter is successful, the one who will marry the beauty will definitely be Lan Chang'e and not me. He sighed with a lonely expression. Actually, I am just a chess piece. A chess piece that can be abandoned after using it, that's all. The Dharma Supreme said indifferently, but this matter is not what you think. There is another reason. Chu Yang said in puzzlement, another reason? The Dharma Supreme said indifferently, come here. Then, he said to the second grandmasters of the big clans, everyone, if you believe me, I will perform this soul control technique. How about it? Although everything Chu Yang said was flawless, the Dharma Supreme still felt that there was something fishy about it. This was a kind of intuition. Chu Yang's voice, expression, actions, tone, emotions, and so on showed in all aspects. What he said was from the bottom of his heart. Many people even believed him now. They were all old foxes. Whether a person was lying or not, they could tell at a glance. But the Dharma Supreme still felt that something was not right. What was wrong? But he could not tell. All the supreme martial artists of course agreed loudly. In this world, if they did not believe in the Dharma Supreme, who else could they believe? Chu Yang's face was stern and fearless. He walked over with a selfless look. He stood in front of the Dharma Supreme. Then, with a puff, an aura was emitted from his body. All the supreme martial artists were shocked. This little one, when someone was performing the soul control technique on him, he automatically dispersed his cultivation and dropped all his guard. This was equivalent to putting everything he had, completely and defenselessly, in the hands of the Dharma Supreme. Really, if one did not do anything wrong, one would not be afraid of ghosts knocking on the door. Chu Yang slowly turned around and said, Elders, although I am young, I know what to do and what not to do. I have said and done. Since everyone came to me to buy information, I have also made a profit by selling it. As for what information everyone came to buy from me, I have also told you the truth. When I said the beginning of the 12th lunar month, it was the beginning of the 12th lunar month. The Lan clan had indeed taken action. My information was not wrong. Although it caused all the great clans to fight to the death because of this, I, Chu Yang, have a clear conscience. I have done right. I have done right. I am an upright person. I do things according to the rules. I am a doctor. A doctor has the heart of a parent. My heart is broad and broad. Selfless. In this matter, yes, I have taken benefit. But those benefits, I should take them. To put it bluntly, it is inevitable that all the great clans will feel heartache when they suffer losses. But as long as my information is conclusive, accurate, and true, then it has nothing to do with me. If someone dies, it has even less to do with me. It should be, you can go and find whoever killed them. A life for a life. If you want to buy information, you also need to show your sincerity. It is that simple. If this matter is not about a beauty but about a treasure, then those who died fighting for the treasure would not go and find trouble with the person who sold you the treasure map, right? If you bought 40 steamed buns, but in the end you could not finish them and forced yourself to eat until you were stuffed to death, you would not go and find the steamed buns seller, right? Chu Yang smiled sadly. The reason why I am here today is because I am weak. I am weak, so everyone can blame me, although everyone knows that this matter has nothing to do with me. After the Dharma Supreme performs his technique, the truth will be revealed. By then, whether you want to kill me or torture me, you can do whatever you want. But please let my sister go. Chu Yang smiled bleakly. This is the way of the world, nothing more. He looked at the Dharma Supreme with a stern gaze and slowly sat down. He said solemnly, Dharma Supreme, please do it. Chapter 2013. Part 7, Chapter 333, Brothers Reunited. The powerful voice said, Boss is also very tired. Youngest, I don't have so many twists and turns like you. Kuan Kuan. The three of us are in the upper three heavens. Now that the name of the Hall of 4-3 is known in the pugilistic world, isn't that great? The previous voice shouted, That's because you two are great. What's there to be happy about? Is it great to be beaten up by you two every day? Back then, I was also a godly thief in the pugilistic world. Boss should let G Mo be beaten up. Or let Luo Ku Di be beaten up. Or let second brother beat you up. He shouted. The powerful voice said without any change in tone, Jiu Du Xing can't beat me now. I can beat him up. The previous voice sneered, I wonder who was the one who was beaten up by second brother Jiu every day until he couldn't fight back. He hugged a heavy and stupid saber and kept shouting, again, again. I don't believe that I can't hit you once. He laughed, so you're addicted to being beaten up. The powerful voice snorted, I realize that you're becoming like Jimo now. If you don't get beaten up for a day, you won't feel good. The voice from before jumped in fright. He hurriedly smiled apologetically and said, Fourth brother, I am sincerely convinced and full of admiration for you. Little brother's worship for fourth brother is like a torrential river, endless and unending. My respect for fourth brother is like a towering mountain. He flattered for a while and sighed, Isn't it all because of boss? Why hasn't that bastard come up yet? The powerful voice laughed lightly, If he comes up, do you dare to call him a bastard to his face? The voice from before laughed maniacally and said arrogantly, Why wouldn't I dare? Now that boss definitely can't beat me, I'll take advantage of him for a few years first. I'll beat him up every day. I'll beat his ass. He gritted his teeth and said, Not only will I beat him up, I'll also teach him a lesson. Humph, I have plenty of methods. No matter what, I can't lose my reputation as a godly thief. Ha ha. When boss comes up, I'll definitely use my peerless stealing skills and steal all of boss's underwear. When that time comes, don't help him and let him run naked in the upper three heavens. How about you help the three of us vent our anger? At this moment, pa pa pa, the sound of clapping came from the door, and a clear voice said with a fake smile, Great plan. What a brilliant plan. An unparalleled godly thief is truly an unparalleled godly thief. Ordinary people really can't afford to offend him. The door opened, and a figure stood at the door, looking at the two of them with a faint smile. The two of them were shocked. With their cultivation, how could they not sense someone standing at the door? He turned his head and looked at the door. Kuan nodded. One had a lively and serious gaze, while the other had a gaze as sharp as a knife. At a glance, it was as if two large swords were slashing at him. At this moment, his hand was placed on the hilt of the saber beside him, but in the next moment, when they saw who it was, both of them were stunned. Then, the two of them screamed crazily, "Ah! Ah! Fuck! Fuck! Boss! Big brother!" Then, two silhouettes rushed up like sharp swords. A thin and small figure jumped up and hugged Chu Yang's neck. The other was burly like a mountain. He reached out and gave both of them a bear hug, dragging them into the door. The door closed with a bang. Then, wahahaha. Boss is finally here, bang bang bang. Boss, you're really late. Fut fut fut. Fuck. You too, be gentler. My butt still hurts. Chu Yang screamed. Really? Then we'll give you a massage. Fut fut fut. Fuck. I'm the boss. Chu Yang said angrily, let go. Ouch. Vent first. Call me boss after you're done. Wahahaha. Awesome. Rui Butong's fists fell like rain, while Dong Wushang sat on Chu Yang's back, suppressing him firmly. Chu Yang lay on the ground in vain, laughing and shouting, fuck. Fuck. I'm here to denounce you. You two bastards. Quickly stop. Wushang, you're also fooling around. Ouch, ouch. My butt. Fuck, hit me again and I'll get angry. I'm really going to get angry. I'm really going to get angry. Fuck. Chu Yang exerted all his strength and pushed Dong Wushang down. Then, the three brothers wrestled. Fart. Dong Wushang held his stomach and bent over. Bang. Rui Butong sucked in cold air and rubbed his thigh, the muscles on his face trembling in pain. Boss, this thigh-twisting move is a move only girls use. Ouch. Bang bang. Chu Yang held his stomach and was about to bend over when his butt was kicked. He fell flat on his face again. Bang bang bang. The room was turned upside down. Those who didn't know better would think that there was a world war. When the three of them finally stopped, even the big bed in the room was smashed into pieces. The three of them lay on the ground with bruises all over their faces, panting and weak. They looked at each other and couldn't help but burst into laughter. The three of them laughed so hard that tears flowed out. Then, the three of them got up and hugged each other tightly, laughing at the same time. The three of them hugged each other tightly and didn't let go for a long time. The laughter gradually died down, but the three of them still didn't let go. In places where they couldn't see each other, tears flowed down quietly. They secretly wiped them away so that their brothers wouldn't see. But why did they keep crying? The three of them didn't speak. They could clearly feel each other's hearts beating violently. Rui Butong and Dong Wushang recalled their encounters since they came to the upper three heavens. It hadn't been a long time, but they had experienced dozens of life and death situations. The three of them had narrowly escaped death many times, especially Rui Butong, who had actually died as many as 5 times. Meeting at this moment really felt like a lifetime ago. In the vast upper three heavens, suddenly seeing the person closest to them, the person they trusted the most, this feeling was really indescribable. Chu Yang and Dong Wushang just sniffed and quietly controlled their emotions. But Rui Butong couldn't control himself and started to sob. The three of them thought of their brothers who were still in the upper three heavens at the same time. At this moment, there was nothing to say. This moment belonged to them. Men have tears, it is for reunion, for joy. Time passed quietly like this. After the initial excitement, the three of them had gradually calmed down. There was a knock on the door. The voice of the innkeeper outside asked, "Sir, did something happen?" Once the door opened, a pig-headed person with a beaming face and tear stains appeared. His face was bruised and swollen, but he said cheerfully, "It's nothing, it's nothing. Don't worry, it's nothing. Hehe, this is for you to compensate for your loss." He casually stuffed a piece of purple crystal over. Bang, the door was closed. Then it opened again. "Let the waiter bring hot water, a teapot and teacups." Bang, the door was closed again. The innkeeper shook his head doubtfully and sighed. Sigh, how pitiful. He's still fine after being beaten up to this extent, crying but still forced to smile, and even forced to tip purple crystals. This poor child, looks like he's met someone he can't afford to offend. Who knows how he's going to be ravaged tonight? Shaking his head, he squeezed the purple crystal in his hand and thought to himself, if I wasn't forced, how would I be willing to tip purple crystals? This piece of purple crystal is enough for him to stay here for half a year, but no matter what, getting the purple crystal is more important than anything else. Even if someone dies in this room tomorrow, I have connections to settle it. The innkeeper left happily. In the room, the three of them had already calmed down. After sighing for a while, Chu Yang suddenly pointed at Rui Butong and burst into laughter. This little one cried just now, haha. Rui Butong's face turned red. I didn't cry. He cried. He pointed at Dong Wushang. Bullshit. Dong Wushang glared at him with eyes red from crying and flew into a rage. You're the one who cried. Rui Butong hung his head dejectedly. All right, under your coercion, I cried. All right. Ha. Look at the two of you, beaten up like bears by me. Looking at the bruises on each other's faces, the three of them couldn't help but laugh. We're together again. After going through separation, life and death, a long journey, and changing two planes, we're brothers, we're together again. After a long while, Rui Butong sighed softly. I wonder how they're doing. When he said this, Chu Yang and Dong Wushang also fell somewhat silent. Chu Yang said in a low and deep voice, our brothers are all good men. Since we can make a name for ourselves, they can definitely do it too. They'll definitely do well. Who knows, it won't be long before they can come up and meet us. Yes. When that time comes, we can still be together like we were for the past 3 days. Rui Butong and Dong Wushang's eyes shone brightly. There was a knock on the door. The waiter brought over a tea set and hot water. Rui Butong opened the door to welcome him. Then, Dong Wushang went to look for tea. The two of them cooperated seamlessly, and a pot of tea was brewed in an instant. But there was no table. Let's just drink on the floor. Sitting on the floor is not bad either, Chu Yang suggested. That won't do. We brothers have reunited after a long separation. How can we sit on the floor? Dong Wushang's burly body stood up. Twisting his neck, he walked out arrogantly. Then, there was a loud shout next door, followed by a few bangs, and then, the sound of footsteps. 3 people with bruised and swollen faces brought over a table and chairs with fearful looks on their faces. Put it down. Set it up properly. Get lost. Dong Wushang pointed at the door fiercely. The 3 people covered their heads and scurried away. Chu Yang was stunned. That works too. The 3 people next door are 3 thieves. We were robbed on the first day we stayed here. Then, Wushang went over and gave them a good beating. Now, whatever we lack, 4th brother will go over and get it as if it's his own house. When he goes over, he'll beat them up without saying a word, and then talk about his purpose after he's done. These 3 people are also used to it. It's uncomfortable not to be beaten up for a day. Rui Butong explained with great emotion. I see. Wushang is really fierce. Ha. Chu Yang couldn't help but laugh. The 2 of you are advancing really fast. How did you do it? Did you take medicine? Chu Yang asked. Boss, aren't you advancing fast? Dong Wushang chuckled. We're basking in Butong's glory. This guy is actually a bird. Damn it, we've acknowledged a bird as our brother. Chapter 2014. You're the bird. Rui Butong jumped up in anger. Turning to Chu Yang, he said, Big brother, it's like this, like this, like this. Then, he explained everything that had happened in detail, and emphasized, actually, I was implicated by 4th brother. Oh Chu Yang was enlightened. He dragged out his tone. So it's really a bird. Rui Butong was dumbfounded. Phut. Ha. Dong Wushang held his stomach and laughed. Chu Yang continued, however, Wushang, you're making a fuss over nothing. Actually, every man has a bird as a brother. It's just that we have one more brother. We have 2. Ha 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 ha. Dong Wushang held his stomach and was out of breath. He felt that he had never been so happy in the past year. Rui Butong was so angry that even his neck was red. Facing these two people, he didn't dare to hit or scold them. Thief God Rui felt like he was going to die of frustration. The three of them drank tea and talked about all kinds of things after they parted. They laughed from time to time. After a while, Chu Yang remembered. Wushang, where's your wife? She went out. That girl is really asking for a beating. Dong Wushang's face was domineering. Boss is here and she's not here. When she comes back, see how I'll deal with her. Who are you going to deal with? A cold and gentle voice came from the door. Mo Lei, dressed in black, walked in from outside with a lot of food and a few jars of wine in her hands. She looked at Dong Wushang with a half-smile. I came up just now. Seeing that you brothers were reunited, I deliberately didn't disturb you. I went down to buy some side dishes and 2 jars of wine. I just heard someone say that he's going to deal with me. No, you must have heard wrongly. Dong Wushang quickly stood up and took the food thoughtfully. He laughed and said, thank you for your hard work. Do you want to sit down and eat together? Chu Yang was stunned. Was this still Dong Wushang? Mo Lei snorted. She wrinkled her nose and said, you 3 brothers eat and drink. Who would be happy if I'm here? Don't be so hypocritical. I'm going to sleep. After bidding farewell to Chu Yang, Mo Lei, the black demon, left. Dong Wushang walked her to the door and watched Mo Lei return to her room before he turned back and chuckled. He did not blush at all. He said, she's not bad. She knows how to take care of people. When he saw that his boss had arrived, he hurriedly went to buy some wine. She knew that she couldn't handle things well. I really want to beat her up. Chu Yang and Rui Butong stared at him blankly. Dong Wushang boldly lifted the wine jar and poured a bowl for each of them. He said, actually, women are just like this. If you don't beat them for 3 days, they'll become unruly. He had to teach her a lesson. Normally, he could be gentle, but at critical moments, he had to be tough. It was a matter of principle. He couldn't give in. As long as you beat him into submission, you can coax him into submission with just a few good words. Chu Yang and Rui Butong stared blankly behind him. Dong Wushang smiled proudly. Just like last time. As if sensing something, he suddenly said, just like last time, Lei's ability to do things is really impressive. She helped me and Butong. I don't know how much she helped us. Boss, you don't know, ever since we came here, if it weren't for Lei, Butong and I might still be wandering somewhere right now. Right. Butong. Rui Butong's face twitched. He nodded like a fool. Yes. What do you think, boss? Dong Wushang asked Chu Yang with interest. Actually, we men have to be more magnanimous towards women. We have to tolerate everything. Only then can we get by. Not every woman is as good-tempered as Lei. Chu Yang stared blankly at Dong Wushang's rough face as if he was looking at an alien. Dong Wushang chuckled. When he turned around, he immediately pretended to be shocked. Lei, why are you back? Mo Lei smiled and thoughtfully helped him tidy up his clothes. She smiled and said, I wanted to remind you that if these 2 jars of wine aren't enough, I still have jars at the waiter downstairs. Dong Wushang held Mo Lei's hand and said emotionally, Lei, you're really too kind. Mo Lei blushed and said, let go, what? Okay, I'm going back. She turned around and left. Dong Wushang looked at the door for a while and carefully closed the door. He chuckled and wiped his forehead. Boss, when dealing with women, you have to be more careful. Chu Yang stared at him for a while and finally sighed and laughed. I've been away for 3 days, I have to look at you in a different light. Wushang, I really should look at you in a different light. Dong Wushang smiled foolishly and scratched his head. He leaned close to Chu Yang's ear and whispered, very fierce, RRR, I can't even get on the bed if I'm not careful, fut. Chu Yang was listening to him with his head tilted and instantly spat out the wine. A mouthful of wine and a half-chewed pig's ear sprayed all over Rui Butong's face, who was trying to eavesdrop with a face full of gossip. Rui Butong was extremely depressed at once. He wiped his face in a flurry and sighed repeatedly. Boss, why did you suddenly explode? Because I suddenly remembered that someone wanted me to run naked in the upper three heavens. Chu Yang said lightly. Rui Butong immediately bowed and said, Boss, please spare me, this mouth of mine is despicable. I've said everything that should be said and shouldn't be said. As he spoke, he raised his hand and lightly slapped himself twice. That strength couldn't even kill a mosquito. Chu Yang snorted and warned, I'm happy this time, so I'll remember this first. If anything happens in the future, as long as I remember it, I'll punish you for multiple crimes. He said heavily, if there's anything that makes me unhappy in the future, I'll definitely make your wish of running naked in the upper three heavens come true. Rui Butong's face was bitter and he agreed repeatedly. He thought to himself, I'm done for. With this despicable mouth of mine, I don't know how many times I'll be punished. At this moment, he suddenly missed Mo endlessly. How great would it be if that guy was here? He was a masochist who was born to attract hatred and attention. Now that he's not here, everyone's target has shifted to me. The three of them drank to their heart's content, infusing all the sorrow of parting, the surprise of reuniting after a long time, and the longing for their brothers into the wine. The three of them didn't use their cultivation to suppress the alcohol and let themselves get drunk. The 2 jars of wine were practically poured into their stomachs. Then, Rui Butong went down and brought up the other jar. The three of them made a big fuss, each occupying a jar and drinking in large mouthfuls. After a long time, Dong Wushang's eyes were drowsy. He laughed heartily and said, I seem to have returned to the upper three heavens. Ha ha ha. How satisfying. Which hero in the world dares to fight with me? Rui Butong's eyes were slanted. He leaned on the table. He looked up weakly and said drunkenly, this bastard is drunk. Before he could finish, there was a slurping sound. He crawled under the table weakly. Chu Yang loved to smile when he was drunk. He smiled like a retard and chuckled as he drank. Then, he laughed and drank at the same time. When the last mouthful of wine entered his stomach, he finally collapsed. With a thud, Dong Wushang's burly body also collapsed. Rui Butong was at the lowest level, Chu Yang was lying on top of him, and Dong Wushang was firmly pressed against Chu Yang's lower abdomen. The position of the three of them was as awkward as it could be, and as uncomfortable as it could be, but the three of them fell asleep just like that with a look of satisfaction on their faces. Snoring sounds could be heard everywhere. A black shadow flashed. Mo Lei quietly came in to take a look. She couldn't help but sigh. Men were really hard to understand. The friendship between men was even harder for women to guess. At such a time when danger was lurking everywhere, these three actually got so drunk just for a simple reunion, but she didn't know that although danger was lurking everywhere at this moment, for the three of them who were in a deep sleep, it was the most comfortable, the most reassuring and the safest time, because their brothers were right beside them. From now on, everyone had someone to rely on. He no longer had to struggle alone like he did in the past. As long as they had this kind of feeling, even if danger was lurking everywhere, the three of them could get drunk without any scruples. Mo Lei didn't touch them either. Just like that, she moved a chair and sat at the door, keeping her guard up. She silently guarded for the whole night. The next day, dawn. A scream sounded from the room. Rui Butong screamed like a pig being slaughtered. What's so heavy? Fuck, it's crushing me. He exerted force and the 2 people on top of him flew out. Immediately, Chu Yang and Dong Wushang also woke up. They only felt sore all over and scratched their heads in puzzlement. They had never heard that sleeping could be so tiring. After leaving the invitation to the auction to the 3 of them, Chu Yang washed his face and hurried away. It was a little abrupt for them to gather together now. He might as well directly appear in the upper 3 heavens during the auction. In that way, with Zi Sheqing's deterrence, the intangible value of his brothers would also rise. Besides, he still had to look for Wn Renjie, Wei Wuyan and the others now. After Chu Yang left, Dong Wushang and Rui Butong finally woke up. Holding the invitation in their hands, they suddenly saw the 2 of them jumping up in ecstasy. Boss really came up. Wahahaha. The two of them jumped up and down excitedly, hugging each other just like that, laughing and jumping on the street in front of the inn's entrance. One was burly and the other was thin and small. Hugging each other and jumping up and down excitedly, it was very easy for people to form an indecent association. After seeing this, many passers-by's eyes suddenly popped out. Then, they couldn't help but rub their eyes and spit a mouthful of saliva. With a look of disdain, they turned and left. Public morals were degenerating day by day, and people's hearts were no longer what they used to be. In the past, men and women had to be secretive and secretive. But now, even men and men had to be so open about it. Mo Leia stood in the inn and looked at these two crazy brothers. She couldn't help but cover her eyes speechlessly. It was really unbearable to watch. Chu Yang circled around and found Wn Renjie and the other two brothers according to the information he received. Then, he found Wei Wuyen, who was alone in an inn. Finally, when he was on his way back, he sent the invitation to Nangong Shifeng. But he realized that the invitation was actually not enough. He had to make another trip to the Medicine Valley's encampment and ask the fifth elder for a few more before it was barely enough. After going through so many twists and turns, it was only at this time that Chu Yang's own strength was going to be displayed in the upper three heavens for the first time. I'm so tired. I'll open a single chapter and go eat. To be continued. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.